Okay, good morning. I'm Commissioner Ed Rothstein. Cannot believe it is November 2023, and I think the holidays are coming up real quick. So let's try not to be naughty and a little bit nice as we move forward. In that step forward, why don't we start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We're going to start with Priority Carol, and in Judaism we have a saying when someone passes, may their memories forever be a blessing, for a blessing to the family, and I extend it to the community and all that knew him or them who had passed. It is sad to share that Secretary Owings, George Owings III, passed a couple days ago. And let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. There he is. Secretary Owings was pretty special in so many ways. Secretary Woods, who is our Maryland Veterans Secretary now, shared some of his thoughts, and I'm going to read what he shared. I think it says a lot, and it also says, my own thoughts. Secretary Owings was a selfless servant in so many ways. He had so much strength and personal courage. He became a mentor to everyone who knew him. He became a very close friend to so many, and to me. He initiated so much for our veterans. There was nobody, I believe, that understood veterans more than Secretary Owings in his lifetime, from being a Marine to moving forward. So I feel like I lost a very dear friend, and I think the community did as well. And Secretary Woods, Anthony Woods, shared, "Dear friends, it's with heavy heart that I share that former Secretary George Owings III passed away yesterday morning." He sent it yesterday. After a brief battle with cancer. George in many ways embodied the veterans can do, what veterans can do after they've completed their time in uniform and become leaders in their communities across the state. It's safe to say that few people have a greater impact of Maryland veterans than Secretary Owings. His experience as a Vietnam veteran and Marine led him to recognize the need for a state-level Department of Veterans Affairs to advocate on behalf of our community and assist veterans, service members, and their families in accessing the benefits they've earned through uniform service. As a leader in the House of Delegates, he had the foresight to champion legislation that turned the Maryland State Veterans Commission into the Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs. Anyone who took a walk with him around Annapolis would quickly realize that he was a beloved figure who had the relationships needed to pass legislation creating the department in 1999. Following the department's creation, he worked alongside many of you, members of the veteran community and MDVA employees alike, to build the organization we know today during 2 tours as secretary, whether championing the legislation to help veterans or advancing efforts to secure the resources needed to build a second veterans home in Sykesville. George was a tireless advocate for veterans, and his legacy will be felt for many years to come. For many of you, he was a mentor and a friend, and his loss will be long felt. I hope that you will keep his family in your thoughts and prayers, and join me in honoring his service to our state and to our country. I spoke with the secretary last week, I think, or a week before, and I was all ready to go see him with the deputy secretary, who actually is a Carroll County himself, Bob Finn. And so, needless to say, it was a gut punch when I heard of his passing. But, you know, somebody like me, you know, serving so many years, I feel, in uniform, that's what I want to do. And he, as it said, embodied service from walking out of uniform and continuing to serve through so much. His personal courage when he left, getting through the cancer, which we thought he had beat, or I thought he had beat, you know, unfortunately took over. He will be missed, but we're going to move forward. He did initiate the veterans home, and that's going to get completed. And we are going to make sure that that happens. So, you know, I just want to share that, you know, it kind of puts to me, and I'll shut up after this, in perspective, what really matters. There's a lot of pettiness, unfortunately, going on. There's a lot of hatred happening in the world and in our communities, and we got to step back and say, enough. You know, this is what really matters, is serving our neighbors, our community, our family, and our friends, to allow them to do just one more thing. So, so for me, that's my priority. Carol, that, I don't know when that picture was, a couple years ago, but what I'd like to do now is hand it off to Commissioner Vigliotti.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rothstein. Good morning, everybody. And actually, first I'll associate myself with the comments that you made, Commissioner Rothstein. I certainly am sorry for your loss and for the loss of all those who knew that gentleman and how he will be missed by them. So it's interesting that you had talked about the importance of service and gratitude, because the first thing I was going to do today was talk about us being in the season of Thanksgiving. And, you know, I think it appropriate therein to begin by offering, you know, thanks to God for life, for family, for our country, for our county. And for me, especially for the 4 men that I serve alongside here, and for everybody who serves the citizens of this county. You know, I also want to be very clear about this as well. I want to thank the citizens of this county as well for being a part of this journey with us. You know, this idea of gratitude, of thankfulness, really is a foundational virtue that strengthens everything else it touches, including service, courage, generosity, and kindness. And thankfulness strengthens the values that we cherish, such as home, truth, liberty, and above all, love. And so I am thankful for every single day my service as a commissioner brings, and the time that I spend alongside these 4 men as we continue to serve the county. And as we've been moving through the fall, you know, these days that we're going through have been very good for all of us and very busy. So I'll do my best to keep things short this morning, because I know we have quite a bit on the agenda. Last week we had the pleasure of meeting with the Emergency Services Advisory Committee, during which we continued a crucial and wonderful working relationship with the representatives of emergency services in Carroll. And we were able to discuss new opportunities, ongoing challenges, and future issues that we can take on together. And I'm thankful for the men and women who serve in fire and EMS for what they do for us. Over the weekend, I ventured to Tawnytown Memorial Park for their Halloween activities. And as some may know, I volunteer for an art committee in town, and I was there to join Lauren Wieprecht, Jay Mishi, and Aaron Mullenix in setting up a pavilion for pumpkin decorating.
as well as getting to see good friends and make new friends, and being grateful to be a judge for the pet parade and pet contest. And the one picture on the left here, this is Lisa Valentine, who works in Tawnytown, but her husband is a delegate for the General Assembly, and it's amazing. He's over in Frederick County, and it's amazing just how close all of us really are, and that same gratitude and sense of community and serving the community. I also took the opportunity to do a little bit of Halloween decorating myself. And Chris, if you can go back to the picture, there we go. So I picked a leaf up off the ground, and instead of putting googly eyes on a pumpkin, I put them on the leaf. And the decoration I named Leif Erikson. So yep, he hung around with me for a couple of days, and he started getting brittle over the last couple of days, so I had to put Scotch tape on him to save him, and so now he's on my desk at home. So in closing, I think that the spirit of thankfulness, of gratitude, of cherishing those things that matter most to human life are the things that helped build our country. And as Commissioner Rothstein had alluded to, those are the sorts of things that matter now more than ever. And that's it for me this morning, Commissioner. Thank you.
Absolutely. This is why I don't follow Commissioner Vigliotti, because I can't compete with Leif Erikson. So just like, try for it, Commissioner Kyler.
Thank you. And Commissioner mentioned the ESAC joint meeting, and it was a good meeting, and the budget's tight, and I know they have concerns, we have concerns. And I love hearing from everyone in Carroll County, whether it's positive or negative. I did get an email, and somehow during that meeting, this lady decided that I don't respect firemen. And I do. I'm meeting some for breakfast next week, and I've been tight with the volunteer fire people before this happened. And I made a point to her, this is one of, I think, only 2 current groups that we meet with quarterly. So, yes, we do care very much about it, and I appreciated her comments and got them. Many of you have heard probably about the North Carroll Senior Center and the pool room there, and I don't want to get into great detail, but Department of Aging, the seniors people, the staff both in the building and outside the building have dealt with it in a very positive way. I think they've met with some people. They're going to do another meeting. It will be reopened. It will be reopened with some more stringent rules. It's unfortunate that we have to. You mentioned there just seems to be so much bickering in this world, and we need to stop it. And that's one of the things I was very impressed. Many of the pool players said, we need to self-police ourselves better. If somebody in that room, and I won't get into what they do, but does something negative, we need to say something to them, not laugh and ignore them. And we all need to do that. So I just wanted to assure everybody that's being worked on, that's happening, I think, in a very positive way. I did a tour of the landfill this week, and I really want to thank Public Works and Dwight out there that runs the place, and I learned a lot. I'm blessed or not blessed that in my past I've probably built half a dozen landfills and capped half a dozen more, but it was nice to see what all we're doing there and what's changed over the years, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. We've been doing our early budget discussions. I went to the Light of Carroll Awards this week. The library does a great job with that event, and it's a good breakfast. It's good talk with everybody in the room, and we really, my wife went too. We've gone before. This is the second year. They had it last year, and we've gone to it before. The lady there in the middle is Shiloh Pottery. And she actually won an award, but she doesn't look real mean in that picture, but she made me become a friend of the Carroll County Library, and she made my wife do that. So people were thanking us for being friends of the library, and I said I didn't think we had a choice, but I'm glad I did it. So great lady, ran Shiloh Pottery for many, many years, won an award there. went to the drug court graduation last night. That was awesome, and some awesome people. The judges and the staff do a great job with it. And I don't understand, and I need to ask more, what happens when you graduate? I get concerned that hopefully they don't drop off the radar, but it doesn't seem to. People were there because it's so easy to backslide after a year. Some of them had up to 3 years in there where you're being tested every week, you're being counseled every other week, and et cetera. And for that to stop, I just hope they have the strength. I was very surprised, and I guess it's a good thing. In the drug treatment court, only 53% finished that. So it's very stringent, and I guess if you've made it through it, you've done some good things. So that was great seeing everybody there. I want to mention Justin Mudgett did a fundraiser in honor of his father who passed within the past year at Gamber, and all the profits in honor of his father went to Carroll County Career and Tech. And I just think that was a great event, and it's always nice to see people. For the record, I didn't win anything.
Good. Oh, that was my question.
I
Okay.
know. You hate it when I win
It's not-
something, so
hate's a
I
bad word.
didn't.
I don't hate.
Manchester Wrestling did a crab feed on Saturday for the program, and that was at the Manchester Carnival Ground, the auxiliary building, and some of the firemen were there. And it just an awesome night seeing everybody. My life, which is my fault. Rhonda and I also had our class reunion that night, so we went to the crab feed, went to the class reunion, and the Manchester group tolerates us very well. We got back 5 minutes before it ended, so they gave us a table, and we and a couple friends ate crabs until about 11 o'clock while they cleaned up the building. So I want to thank them for that. And I did do a class reunion this weekend, and it's so nice to see friends, even some of that live close. You just don't see them that often, but event like that, you get to see them. And we made a decision, as Commissioner Rothstein likes pointing out, I'm a year or two older than he is. We decided
4, 5, or 6.
we decided that instead of doing a reunion every 5 years, we're going to do it every year. And then on 5 years, do something more. My wife's class, which was behind us one year, always seems to do stuff. They've been doing lunches and multiple times a year. They've been getting together, and we decided we better follow their lead and get us all together. So it's been a great week, and I want to thank everybody. I love Carroll County. I love the people here, even the firemen, and I just want to thank everybody.
I appreciate it. And in a little bit, we have the ladies come up regarding Veterans Proclamation, but Celine can add more to drug court graduation and those that graduate and the programs that are still available for them. Because, if you're going to get arrested, the best place to get arrested is here in Carroll County. If these are your issues, because of the programs that we do have with drug treatment court, along with the nonprofits and services. So Celine just, so putting that bug in your ear, but she'll share a little bit more.
Maybe don't go out of the way to get arrested, though.
Don't go out of the way to get arrested. No. Commissioner Gordon.
Thank you. Good morning. On Friday, I attended the county hosted the Table of Treat Award at the Carroll County, all the various Carroll County departments. There's HR and myself. There's Christy Bixler from HR. Had a wide array of kids in attendance. Costumes ranged from Spider-Man, Pinocchio, Elsa. It was great to see kids from the from Carroll Child Care involved with this. DPW was kind enough to bring a dump truck out for the kids to take a look at, as well as the Westminster Fire Department brought out a fire truck and an ambulance. So that was definitely a fun day for the kids, and it was kind of a nice change of atmosphere with the holidays. I was in a meeting prior to that, so it was kind of going from an important meeting to that, so it was nice to break that up a little and get to enjoy some things with some of the community. So
Is that Commissioner Kyler? Huh? Okay. Okay.
Tough crowd this morning. On Saturday, I attended the Maryland Crab Cake Festival, which was the first one held by 100.7 The Bay and WJZ out at the Farm Museum. There's Jack Antwerp and myself. We were two of the crab cake judges. We had the difficult challenge of testing 10 blind crab cakes, so we did not know what we were tasting or from whom. Also, Amy Kawada from WJZ was one of the other judges. It was a very heavily attended event. There was over 5,000 people at the Farm Museum. First time event. They are going to be doing this next year. I hope the weather holds as well as it did. We had the Amish Outlaws and the Reagan Years. Definitely a great opportunity for us to showcase Carroll County, and I know a number of local businesses in the area were heavily supported after the event. So it's very nice to see our Farm Museum as a showpiece, which it is in our county, but also to see local business visited by many visitors into the community. And this is a photo of Coco's Pub out of Baltimore that ended up winning the crab cake after we all tested them. It was a very difficult, challenging day, to say the least.
Although none of us knew that you were testing, and we weren't even asked to judge, but just throwing it out there.
That's what happens when
No
it's in...
sour grapes there at all.
No, nothing.
I was
No,
going to bring you a
it's-
crab cake, but we didn't have any left. But and then on Tuesday, I attended the Historical Society's annual luncheon. It was a good meeting. They gave a good overview of what they've been up to the past year, discussed their finances as well as their long-range plan, as well as they gave out a number of awards for volunteers and service. One was Cindy Lawyer for her many years of volunteering in the library, as well as Dr. Jim Leitner, who was given the Distinguished Service Award, and Distinguished Historian Award was given to Frank Badovic. It was a very heavily attended event, and we also had some involvement from the Maryland Center of History and Culture, and obviously a Maryland museum out of Baltimore, which used to be the Maryland Historical Society, but there was some good conversation and discussion as to the changing scenarios and parameters of how we showcase our history in the community. It's definitely something that's something we need to do, but then the question also becomes, how do we do it as we all evolve and society evolves? How do what is history and how do we portray it and showcase it to the public? So that was a nice event and a luncheon to attend. And then yesterday I was with Commissioner Kyler at the Light of Carroll Awards. Very impressive group of nominees. I'm not going to go through the entire list this morning, but I will say that heavily attended by the community as a whole. It was always a very positive event, and it was nice to see. This is Cameron, who's the owner of Soul Man Sweets, which is a bakery business he has. He does a lot of things in the community to assist those and gives back to a variety of different groups. And it's great to see these kind of events because it does put a spotlight on the positivity in the community, and it's very easy for us to get wrapped up in negativity, be it national news, state or local. But the thing I think we all have to realize and really focus on is, yes, we have our differences and we'll have our disagreements, but we can all come together and be positive as a community. And I thought this event was just perfect to showcase that. So that's me for this week. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Commissioner Garin.
Good morning, Carroll County. Got a couple quick announcements, but there's been a few folks that have alluded to some of what's going on in the country. A lot of strife, what you see on college campuses and things like that. It's hard to ignore, but it's also important for you not to ignore it. And I think it's important for a lot of us to understand it. And I've got an interesting perspective on it that I don't think is unique. But when you start going out and labeling ordinary citizens as members of hate groups just because they're care about what their kids might be learning in school, or you take that to the extreme and you decide that entire countries are full of people that don't deserve to live, you get what you see now. What you're doing is you're labeling those people as evil. And what you're telling the country is that, well, evil has no rights, so whatever I do to these folks is going to be okay. It's important for people to recognize what's going on. I know it's important to also try to get along. We're all human beings. But it is important to recognize the level of antagonism that is going on today is dangerous. And the second you start labeling people as evil, you start telling everybody around you that these people have no rights. And then where does it stop? It comes from the left, in my view. The same folks with the peace, love, and understanding crowd, that's out the window. And if hate has no place in Carroll County, then let's show me. Show me. Because it's a serious problem, and it's not going away. I just think it's important for people to recognize what exactly is going on as we move forward. We're a year away from a very big election, and it's going to get interesting times in American history, and you just hope that cooler heads prevail. But it's important to label things what they are. So I just wanted to throw that in there, and I wanted to mention that. A couple alluded to Veterans Day is coming up here shortly. Carroll County really, we've all agreed this. Carroll County is such an amazing county because we do things in Carroll County that a lot of other counties in Maryland don't do, and a lot of other counties in the country don't do. So, we've got Veterans Day coming up. I'm myself a veteran. I guess I don't really think of myself as much of a veteran. Sometimes I kind of, think of people more like my father, who immigrated here, got married, and then got drafted, and didn't even realize he could get drafted. He wasn't even an American citizen. His best friend had already been killed in Vietnam, and his brother had already been killed there. So I think about people like him. I think about a lot of the people I work with, who are combat veterans and have to deal with that every day. But what's amazing is that and I think the Carroll County Public School System does an amazing job of making sure people recognize what's going on at other schools. So I know we're over a week out, but I wanted to take the liberty of talking about some of the things going on in the schools down in my district, District 4, because again, it's really fantastic to see the schools doing this. I lived in South Carolina for a little while, and it was refreshing to see the level of patriotism down there for Veterans Day and Memorial Day and things like that. But you can't escape the fact that a lot of counties aren't probably doing this. So it's on November 10th, down at Mount Airy Elementary is inviting veterans for coffee and donuts. Mount Airy Middle School is doing the same. From 9:15 to 10:15. My alma mater, South Carroll High School, is doing something on November 10th from 8:30 to 9:30. And Winfield Elementary School, for the next couple weeks, looks like they're telling stories, making American flags, and writing letters to veterans. What could be better than that? So I commend the Carroll County Public School System for getting these things out. I know next week I'm sure we'll probably have more to say about this because it'll be upon us. But what a fantastic effort to get young people to recognize what Veterans Day really is, and to celebrate it and invite veterans into the schools and meet with some of these young folks. So again, a lot going on in the county, but with Veterans Day fast approaching, I thought I would mention some of these events, and they're happening all over other schools as well. And I know my colleagues will be highlighting those, I'm sure. Thank you.
No, I appreciate, well said. And I think Monday I'm going to Century High School to speak to a group all throughout the week. Next week, because Veterans Day, the 11th, is on Saturday. So all throughout next week, there are activities across the school system and the county. Whether it's the Legions or VFWs and others, I know we're all participating. So I appreciate those comments. Ladies, why don't you come on up, Celine, Gina, Bobby. As we're moving into Veterans Day, one of the challenges is taking care of our military community, whether they be active duty, reserve, National Guard, veterans, their families, the Department of Defense workers, contractors, all that are part of that military team. And in our community here in Maryland, we have a whole lot. And the challenge, I believe, is there's very little time between somebody leaving their workplace to when they get home to cool down, to kind of decompress. And and what I'm talking about is from the Fort Meade community here. I mean, it's literally a 10, 15, 20-minute, whatever drive to decompress, to be home. And a lot of those workforce are our veterans. So how do we capture the needs of our veterans and our veterans' families and community? And there's a program, it's called Supporting Operation Greenlight for Veterans. And today I get the opportunity to provide a proclamation, but then also going to ask for the three ladies to share their thoughts in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and what we need to do better and what we need to do more of. So think about that, because it's important. And I'm going to try and do this without my glasses since I forgot them. Whereas Operation Greenlight is an initiative led by the National Association of Counties. It raises awareness around the unique challenges faced by many veterans and the resources available at the county, state, and federal levels to assist veterans and their families. And the residents of Carroll County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served our country in the armed forces, and the contributions and sacrifices of those who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And Carroll County seeks to honor individuals who have made countless sacrifices for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, veterans of foreign wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually. An estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future, and studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high level of stress during transition from military to civilian life. And whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at high risk for suicide during their first year after military service, and the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs, to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans. And whereas the Board of Carroll County Commissioners appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, designate as a green light for Veterans County, hereby proclaim November 6, 2023 through Veterans Day, November 11th, 2023, as a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifices of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. We, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, further proclaim that in observance of Operation Greenlight, Carroll Countyans display green lights in a window of their place of business or residence from November 6th through November 12th, 2023, to honor all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve our freedom. Adopted this second day of November 2023, signed by all Carroll County Commissioners. And this Carroll County office building will be lit up next week in support of Operation Greenlight from November 6th through November 12th as well. Yeah, it's a lot. And transitioning is very difficult and is a challenge. Fortunately, we do have veteran support groups. I think I'm a lifetime member of all of them because they took my money. No, I'm a lifetime member because I want to be. And we also have a very strong VA program and system that continues to get stronger because we find the problems from years ago. And you know, the VA programs, both locally, regionally, state, and federal, have definitely shown their value to our veteran community. But like Secretary Owings would say, nobody does it better than Carroll County. And that wasn't just lip service. I mean, that's why we're doing the things we're doing. And a large part is because of the ladies in front of us, but also the team that they represent. So with that, let me hand it over to Celine. Do you have any thoughts?
I just want to say, I do believe that Carroll County does a great job. We continue to look at what we have available for our veterans and what we can do better. And that's with your support that we're able to do that. And it really takes the entire community to provide the services that we have for our veterans. With the Operation Greenlight, I think this is an awesome time for the community to show their support, because it's not just about government. It really takes the whole community. And I believe that the services that we have at the Bureau of Aging and Disabilities for our veterans, with our veteran service officers, as well as the private foundation funding that we have to also support a case management position to work with the veterans that we encounter that have high risk and really need that additional support, and maybe at risk of homelessness. These pieces of the puzzle that we can put together for folks really helps across the board. So, and I'll let Gina and Bobby speak, and then I will tie back to the drug treatment court, because there's a veteran component to that I want to mention as well, because I was also at the graduation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll couple what Celine said. We really appreciate the commissioner's support for our programs. We just celebrate our 10-year anniversary of the program. And I'm really excited about the Ask the Question initiative as well, because as Commissioner Guerin said, maybe I don't identify myself as a veteran, and we see individuals who may feel that same sentiment. I'm not injured in the war, or I wasn't boots on the ground. So, did you serve in the military? So we can really look at who this individual is, who these people are, so we can make sure they're getting whatever for what they're entitled, whether it be benefits or support or resources or counseling. We're seeing more of that. I can sit here and tell story after story. So that's going to be our goal. We're doing a lot more outreach. We're kind of making sure that our community, our assisted living facilities, our constituents are aware of what we have to offer and what's due to them. So it's part of our mission.
Absolutely.
And we do appreciate
Gina?
everything.
Yeah, this program is so special in Carroll County, and it is a model for other communities throughout the state of Maryland to replicate. Our staff work very hard to support veterans of this community, really going above and beyond. There have been instances where veterans have been, or a veteran's been in crisis, and it could be an evening, it could be a weekend. Doesn't matter. We're working to get that veteran, into the hands of somebody who can help them and assist them, and make sure that they get transported to a VA medical facility, what have you, to get the assistance that they need. As I had mentioned last week, our staff really dig down into the details to obtain the best possible outcome for their compensation claims for our veterans. And, there was this story may have been shared, but there was a veteran recently that received a retroactive payment of nearly $1 million. And that is really going to skew our data in the future years. But because we do keep track of those compensation claim awards. But it's just an example of how hard our staff work to again, obtain the best possible outcome, for our veterans. We work very well with partner agencies in the community, but also at the federal level through the VA medical system. Have so many connections that we can communicate with, to get assistance for veterans, who are in need. Selena mentioned the private foundation funding, which enables us to do things that we couldn't possibly do. And when you had asked about the needs, Commissioner Rothstein, that's what we recognized very early on, is that the case management component was desperately needed for veterans that had those additional needs. We also do a presentation every year at the crisis intervention training for law enforcement to educate them about the services and programs that are available to veterans, but also there's a PTSD component for them to recognize, because the goal of that training is to help those officers who are trained to de-escalate situations and to obtain positive outcomes for the individuals that they encounter. So we do a great job here in Carroll County, and again, as everybody said, we're so thankful for your continued support, and for the continued support of Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs. Secretary Owings was a huge champion and supporter of our program, and helped us to get it off the ground, as well, and continued to support us, over the last 10 years, even after he had moved on out of his role as secretary. So we just thank everybody for the support, so we can continue to do what we do and continue to build on it.
Yep. No, thank you. Anybody from up here want?
Sure, I'll just be very brief. I want to say thank you for what you do. Thank you to anybody who served. What we do for our veterans would not be possible without you. And for me, this is a testament of our county and the values that we have, but it is also a way of demonstrating to our veterans that they took care of home, and now home is taking care of them. And I think that's so incredibly important because, we look at ourselves as home, as a community. And we recognize that everybody does matter, including those who, quite often don't, take the gratitude that they have earned. They feel they don't deserve, but they've earned. And so for anybody who has served, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I pray that God blesses you in every single possible way.
No, thank you. And again, being so profound, I can't follow directly. So, Commissioner Kyler, what do you have to say?
Thank you. I'll be the buffer. No, thank you very much. And it's interesting, Commissioner Guerin, you mentioned, and Commissioner Rothstein reinforces this very often. Sometimes I feel like I got drafted last week of the last draft of the country, but I didn't see comeback. Some of that's dumb luck and timing, but so I tell people, I feel like veteran light, but as Commissioner Rothstein says, if you served, if you did, and sometimes you can control whether or not you see combat, sometimes you cannot. And I just want to thank all the veterans out there, regardless of how they served, and just thank them. You mentioned when you were reading the American Legions, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. There's so many non-county things also in Carroll County. Some of the independent veterans groups that support them, and just the combination of everything and what you guys do. We try our best in Carroll County. I love the pin because some veterans will not volunteer. I remember, unfortunately, in the 60s and 70s where a lot of veterans would change clothes at the airport in the bathroom so they didn't get spit on. And I can understand why they don't want to talk about it a whole lot. World War II, we had friends, World War II people. It seemed like it took them years to tell the stories. And the stories are so fascinating of what some of these guys did, all the way to the young guys that have now served. But it's very hard to pull that out of them, and I thank you guys for trying to be creative on constantly doing that and getting them to step up and get what they deserve.
Absolutely.
And sorry, did I buffer you a little bit?
All good. Gentlemen?
I'm just going to echo my colleagues on that. I mean, obviously, we appreciate everything you and your staff do, and we have a great community with various other organizations and nonprofits that assist as well. And it's one of the things I think that we do so well in Carroll County as a whole is collaboratively work. We work together as a community. And to Commissioner Kyler's point as to whether someone's a veteran or not, I've heard that over the years from various individuals I've known. I've known some gentlemen in World War II that they never saw service per se. They were here in country, but no, they all are veterans. The one thing I will mention, though, to sort of tie into that, is I think sometimes we have this interesting thought, or some of us do, what is a veteran? Who is a veteran? And we have a tendency to think of, grandfathers, uncles, aunts, those kind of folks. But we also have younger people that are veterans that sometimes they don't look at themselves as being veterans because I guess you would say they're newer veterans, perhaps, or younger veterans. But I think it's important that we remember that all of those individuals that have served are veterans, regardless of age or where they have served our country. So I appreciate all the hard work. Thank you.
Very well said. Colonel? I'll tell you, the young veterans, that was the initiative of former Commissioner Weaver to have the veterans celebration was there was this like donut hole. There was this, young veteran community that wasn't being recognized from Iraq, Afghanistan, and that's really was the his thoughts, and then we moved it from there. So really well thought out. I do want to give a shout out to the Callard Foundation for all they do. All they do in the community, all they do for our veterans community. They are, again, selfless in their approach. So definitely a shout out. And the last point is, when somebody thanks me for serving, I turn around and thank them for giving me a reason to serve. We live in one freaking great country. And, we have a constitution for a reason. And, that's why I raise that right hand. Giving up some civil liberties, some of my own, because there's things you can't do once you're, in uniform, because we're governed by another law book in addition to all the other law books, the Uniform Code, Military Justice. But we give up those inalienable rights to allow others to have theirs. And that's pretty cool to understand. That's why I don't care if you serve a day or however many years, we do it for the right reasons, and we recognize it. And you three, with your folks and your teams, just expand the opportunities to serve our veteran community. So thank you. Okay, why don't we,
Can I add my comment about the drug treatment court and kind of what happens when people graduate? So last evening, I also was in attendance, and when folks graduate from drug treatment court, they have to have completed, for the most part, all of their treatment requirements, and so that's a positive because they've done that. But the supports don't leave them. They have their self-care groups that they can still participate in. The supports that have been put into place, the resources they've been connected to, they still exist. And then also we have a peer that's assigned to drug treatment court from our health department that follows them, that can stay with them, that is always there for them to outreach with, that continue to support them. The other piece of the puzzle last night, one of the individuals that graduated was a veteran. And so we talked after the program, and we will certainly be reaching out to him, but he's already connected in the VA system, but still has some continued things that he wants to work with us on. So we will get back in touch with him and continue to work through that. But that was great to see that out of the 5 graduates last night, one of them was actually a veteran, and to just celebrate that and his successes there. So.
Great. Thank you so much. Why don't we, put this in history, and Matt from the Magic Door will come out with a picture. Maybe. There he comes.
Always got to try to look acceptable.
I know.
You have to put roses in the
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the Carroll County Youth Services Bureau. And what's happening over there? We're told to bring out the leg irons and don't let somebody leave. Are you allowed to leave? I don't know.
I'm sorry?
Are you allowed to leave?
Yes, only because we found an amazing replacement.
We're gonna,
so-
we'll play tribute to
Yeah.
Sam and say how wonderful incoming, but thank you. Just 2 words, thank you for all you've done for our Carroll County community. And you are beyond a rock star to so many that have grown over the years and become just mature, developed adults because of the program that you put together and your team. So just thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
It's, my leaving is bittersweet, that's for sure. There are lots of things that I will miss. But before I introduce Dr. Bowman today, I just want to mention that we are also part of the veterans effort. We have accepted TRICARE insurance, which is military insurance for, oh my gosh, 12, 15 years now. We also have a very generous donor who provides scholarship funding for people who are either veterans. I mean, we do serve adults, so every place I go, we want to say that. We serve individual adults, but also their families, and we'll also serve the families without the veteran. So, but we have a very generous donor who provides some scholarship funding for folks who are involved with the military or retired. So we're very proud to serve those veterans as well as all the amazing things I just heard about today. So just to let you all know that we want to be part of that effort. So
No, I appreciate it. Just another testament to our Carroll County community in taking care of our veterans. And pretty impressive, so thank you.
I'm so happy you mentioned donors also. I don't know, a lot of people probably haven't been in your building, but if you go there or you do a tour there are plaques every place of the great Carroll County people who have contributed and donated and sponsored, and it's pretty awesome.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, we're very fortunate to live in this county. The giving is incredible here. It really is. And you mentioned building, and I'll just say that we are building an addition. So, and we haven't decided what the square footage will be quite yet, but we're vacillating between higher and lower. But we've already collected almost $4 million towards that building through grants, and you mentioned the Cowlett Foundation. They are also a generous supporter of our new addition. So, but my mission here today is to introduce Dr. Bowman. Sam has come to us with over 20 years' experience in management of behavioral health facilities, and he has a few other years prior to that were in more of the clinical kind of work. So just to mention a couple interesting things about Sam. Sam was a youth service director, youth service bureau director in the Tri-County area many years ago. So I think you were there 11 years?
11 years, yeah. Wow.
11 years. So he comes to us with that great youth service bureau experience, but also and Commissioner Rothstein, you were a generous supporter of our accreditation process with the Council on the Accreditation for Rehabilitative Facilities, or CARF. When they came, Sam is also a car surveyor.
Okay.
So when they come back again, we have an expert on our team now. So Sam also comes with many other capabilities in juvenile services, in adult services, in prison services. So I think you're all going to find that he's a extremely credible new executive director for our organizations, and is going to take us in even better places and different places. And so I'm very excited about Sam taking over this position.
Which tri-county?
Southern Maryland, Charles, St. Mary's, Culver.
Got it. There's lots of tri-counties around.
There sure
you know,
are.
So I'm from New Jersey. We have our own tri-county. So okay, got it. Okay, well, welcome.
So I'm good. If I can
Yeah.
have a minute or two and
Absolutely.
just turn it over to Sam so he can say a little bit more about himself.
Yep, sure.
Well, I want to say something about you first. I've already met some wonderful people. I met Roberta and Celine, and just really impressed with what I see here in the county. So Lynn mentioned that I'm a surveyor for CARF, like an auditor. So to do that, I've traveled all across the United States, Canada, and Europe. And coming here to Carroll County and seeing what Lynn and you and your community has built is quite unique. The neighborliness, the kindness,
the love that people have, the joy, helping people get through stuff every day. We just really appreciate it. We appreciate your support. Of course, we have these donors and this a lot of other funding sources, but none of that would be possible without the base of support from you, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. I know, Tom, you've been involved with this a long time, you know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't use this word lightly, but Lynn, you definitely leave a legacy with all your work with Youth Service Bureau, and it's a testament not only from you, but your staff, all the people you've worked with over the years that have helped Youth Service Bureau get from where they were to where they are now. I think we're very blessed with your, I won't say replacement, but the new executive director. I've met him briefly, and I know we're going to get together and talk some more, but I can't say enough good things of what this organization does for the community, and it's such a needed organization, and I greatly appreciate all the work you've done. I look forward to seeing where the future holds and seeing what directions you take us in, but just thank you to both of you, and I look forward to where things go.
That's great.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Thoughts,
So,
comments?
and we do have a couple commissioners who haven't made their way to us yet, and we would love to have you there, really would.
I mean, the whole, I don't know, the fabric of success in Carroll County is how you fit in with all the others, with Celine and all the entire team. It's just stitched so well that we take, and the target is the kid or an adult, young adult, and how to identify the problem and then come up with a solution, because that solution is different from one to another, and how you all get engaged and involved is just, to me, so impressive. And again, it's just the way we do it. It's all of the folks coming together. So, and
really
you're a
is.
very integral part of that. you
Yeah,
know.
and actually, I've been on a couple state boards, and people just marvel at the fact that we have these partnerships in this county. I mean, they say often, a couple of people have said to me, I can't even get anyone on the phone, and you're sitting in a room with all the important people, So the partnerships is incredible, the staff is incredible, our staff, and so can't say enough good things about this incredible county, so.
Absolutely
I
agree.
think that we're sitting in the room with the important people.
Yes. And I
Well
encourage
said.
people to get a tour, including the other commissioners. It's, and I constantly say I love Carroll County, but I'm learning. It's, you go in there, you guys do stuff I didn't realize you did. It's so much that goes on in that I think people take for granted or don't know about. So the tour helps, at least helps get it into my head to go around there and see all the things you do.
Yeah, we love to give tours because when people come, they learn about all the different programs. And next time a constituent or your next door neighbor or someone says, I'm having a problem here, you'll think, oh my gosh, they have a program that fits that perfectly. So, we like to show off too, so pretty much. So our staff and all the great things that you allow us to do, so.
Yeah, everybody there was so friendly, and I felt like I'm walking around half in the way of what you do, but they all took time to talk, and we're very proud of what they did. So it's awesome building.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about a decision regarding proposed clarification to the definitions in Chapter 158 addressing drug treatment facilities. Mr. Burke, do you want to navigate us through this? And
Sure.
we'll
Good
go
morning,
from there?
Commissioners. On August the 15th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended to the board that some proposed zoning text amendments be made. You held a public hearing on these amendments on September 28th. You left the record open for an additional 10 days for additional comment. The proposed amendment would create a new definition for something called a drug treatment facility, which we currently don't have in the code now. And it would amend the definitions of assisted living facility and nursing homes to clarify that they would include drug treatment centers as drug treatment facilities as they would be defined in the code. It would also clarify that drug treatment facilities would not be allowed in daycare centers, retreat facilities. At this point, it's up to the board to discuss the proposed amendments and to come to a determination as to whether or wish you how you want to proceed in this matter.
Okay, and just to clarify, public comment is not prior to this because we put it out for public comment already, and
Yes, you left the record open for 10 days, and we continued to receive comments after the 10 days,
Right.
but we received them, and
Okay.
they were put to the commissioners.
okay,
We have a quick PowerPoint if you're interested in rehashing the proposal.
sure. Sure.
Bird, is it this one down here?
More, Mayor.
It's a very quick PowerPoint. It is just,
Okay.
it is just a review of the changes to the definitions, a new definition for a drug treatment facility, which I won't read because you've seen this now. We've been before you, I think, 4 times on this. And then amending 4 of the definitions that currently exist for assisted living to clarify that it may include a drug treatment facility, daycare center may not, nursing home may, and retreat facility may not. And those are all the proposed changes that went to public hearing.
Do me a favor.
Sure.
Can you go back to the first?
Mhm.
I want to make sure we do get the opportunity to read, you know. No, that's okay. And then when I get the go-ahead from us, if you're comfortable, we'll move on to the next. We good? Okay. Are we good with slide?
Yep.
Okay.
Have them in your books, too.
No, I don't have my glasses, so I can't read the book, but
And this is the
One
last
versus
proposed
for
change.
Well, it's good because it gives everybody else a chance.
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
That's,
what, I know that's what you were trying to accomplish.
okay, are we comfortable? We good, Joe? Okay, thank you. Okay. So at this point, we have open for discussion amongst us and decision to be made on the proposed motions on either maintaining the changes in definitions or rejecting the definitions, or tabling. You know, those are really the 3. Is that correct, Mr. Burke?
Correct.
Or there's a
Or we could modify.
Modify,
Or we can modify.
4 options.
consistent with the advertisement. If the modifications are
That's right.
different from what was advertised, we'd have to go back to the drawing board with them.
So can I begin by asking, I guess, maybe 1 or 2 questions, and perhaps maybe the same question, but just simply interrelated. So first of all, is there anything else that would necessarily fall potentially under state requirements for what constitutes a drug facility? I mean, I know we have a couple of them listed here. For example, we talk about how a daycare center is not a drug treatment facility, but an assisted living facility, if licensed by the state, could include a drug treatment facility. So what is it by state law that we're parsing and determining what in our code could constitute could also constitute a drug treatment facility. And that being the case, is that also why something like a daycare center is being defined as not including a drug treatment facility?
Well, right now, you don't have a definition of a drug treatment facility, but they're coming. They're coming to the county. They're applying for permission to build here, and
Now, go ahead, Mr. Burke.
they're applying for permission, and right now, they don't fit any under the ordinance.
Right.
This is an attempt to clarify that.
Could you also clarify, please, this is facilities in ag zoning, and is that true? And this has nothing to do with recovery houses in residential neighborhoods. Is that are both those statements correct?
Yes, this does not address the residential treatment centers in residential zones. Those are governed by state law. This does address nursing homes and assisted living facilities, which are allowed in the ag zone under certain circumstances.
Right, they're conditional use at the ag conservation, the residential zones as well, with a lot size requirement, and the commercial zones.
And would you mind kind of clarifying, it's a conditional use for the people listening. What's that, how's that different than if it were just in there?
If it was down as a permitted use, it's permitted by right, and it has to go through site plan review, but it's permitted by right. For conditional use, it has to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals for permission.
So it adds an extra step.
Okay, so,
Extra step, and then the approval to actually do it, and then it moves to site plan. So it's not getting out of the site plan, but it's adding that additional
so
step.
you added a comment, because I appreciate where we're going with this, is you also mentioned residential
Nursing homes and assisted living facilities
In-
are currently permitted
in residential.
in
Yeah.
residential by conditional use. Yes.
Are they lot sizes within that, or is it residential?
I believe there's a 3-acre minimum on that. I'd have to look that up.
Right.
But there are density restrictions
I don't
on
know.
it.
I
That's
don't
what I'm
think there
asking.
is.
Can we-
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I can find that out.
Yeah, please do. Because as you're doing that, if we are adding this into assisted living nursing homes, I mean, that's where a lot of the concern is conditional use in residential.
While maybe we need to look at recovery houses in residential, what we're doing today has nothing whatsoever to do with that. Correct?
This is changing the definition, you're correct, yes. This is changing the definition of, clarifying, adding a definition of drug treatment and clarifying the definition for assisted living and nursing homes.
With the,
But this definition section covers
Everything.
the entire zoning code.
Yes.
Right.
So if this, whatever it is, assisted living, is allowed in that zone,
It covers everything.
then this would be if the board adopted this definition of assisted living, that would be the definition for the entire zoning code.
which would include drug treatment facilities, if it's adopted
If
this
you
way.
adopt this, an assisted
That's what it
living
would do.
would be defined as also a drug treatment facility, and it could, wherever assisted living is allowed.
Right. So I want to know where assisted living is allowed, conditionally used in residential.
In the residential districts, it is allowed by conditional use. It always has been.
Correct. Is there a lot size
So
requirement?
It's allowed in R 40,000, which is what, that's less than a,
That's an acre,
and it's,
roughly.
and R 20,000,
In all 4 it is.
and R 10,000. It's allowed everywhere.
So,
75.
and that was my question, so it's allowed everywhere is what you're saying?
So
All
if,
4 residential districts by
Okay.
conditional
Okay.
use, and as far as the lot size requirement, it's 45,000 square feet. So the 3 acres that I mentioned, I was wrong. That's just for conservation and ag zone.
Okay.
And then it's also allowed in all 3 of the commercial districts, but there's no lot size requirement. I know that's probably not.
So
Okay.
what I don't think I understand. So let's say I live in a residential neighborhood, and there's 2 recovery houses on my street. What we do today does not change that, whether they can or can't be whatsoever.
It does not. Those are 8 and under, and those are in the code as a permitted use. And as Mr. Burke said,
The state law is a permitted use. You would
Right.
need to have the delegation change that,
Yes.
propose to change that, and have to go through the legislature.
But, so, by altering these definitions, we necessarily create conditions down the road that would affect the entire code.
Correct.
And that's where that's where I personally, and I have no problem plunging into this, that's where I'm having some difficulty in this. I mean, I've said before, and I know that I'm not arguing with anybody here, and I know that I'm not arguing with anybody who's put this together. I mean, we all know very commonsensically that a drug treatment facility is not an assisted living facility. You know, treating or caring for somebody who has Alzheimer's is a completely different set of circumstances and a situation caring for somebody who has addiction issues. You know, I understand that the law says that these things are necessarily, you know, one and the same, but I would also posit that the government or the state government is not always known for common sense or seeing individual human beings as individual human beings. And so I understand that the attempt here is to clarify the code, but I would argue that I worry because, you know, we are necessarily creating the conditions for a change overall. You know, the inception of this discussion back in the summer was to distinguish categories and to help provide language which articulated these things for the benefit of those who serve in any capacity in this county related to planning and zoning, but also so people who live in the county would know ostensibly what may, you know, open up next door. You know, I take this very seriously because, you know, when we talk about, you know, constructing a definition, it's not just a rhetorical exercise, it's not just a, you know, political debate. You know, we're doing something that is going to have a real-world consequence. And I think at the same time, you know, we're certainly looking at whether or not these things, and we do have to look beyond today. I would argue we do have to look beyond today. These may only be affecting one part of the code right now, but again, in the coming years, it will affect everything. And I think that and for me, you know, one of the concerns is that, you know, it may include, or I'm sorry, it may, what is the phrase? It may
also mean?
May also mean, thank you, may also mean a drug treatment facility licensed by the state of Maryland. I would argue and I would submit that doesn't help clarify things. That creates more ambiguity. That creates a greater sense of uncertainty because, you know, the county may look at things one way, but the state certainly looks at something another way. And while I really do respect and appreciate that you know, extra language in there, that this is something that the state, you know, may license or impose, I think, you know, again, for our sake, for fittingness within communities, for respecting our citizens who live in those communities, but also, you know, demonstrating respect for the people who will be living at those facilities, that you know, we are very much aware of and very much working to provide correct definitions which do take into account their unique circumstances as well as the circumstances of the people who live in the communities where those facilities are going to open up and operate. And my suggestion today would be to you know, table this and to get a little further into the discussion about this. You know, I've had a number of questions that I've considered over the last couple of days, and they do relate to the concept of definitions. You know, some of the things I've asked myself, you know, we talk about what these things are and where they may go. You know, for example, and I'm making this up, and if you have anything or anything to correct me with, please feel free to do so. You know, you know, what are the circumstances, the regulations under which an assisted living facility may open up, right? You know, where, specifically, where do they go, right? Where an assisted living facility, the way that we know it, may necessarily be able to open up, may also necessarily not be amenable or ideal for a drug treatment facility to be located. For example, if it's near a dispensary or a liquor store for that matter. And so again, it's for me, the discussion is also, again, about respect for not only the people who will live beside these things, but for the people who will live in the facilities themselves as well. And so again, I would humbly submit that we need to have a far more in-depth discussion about this. We certainly heard from our citizens, and we have heard from our staff who have done a phenomenal job putting this together. But today, I have to confess that I would not be ready to proceed with a vote on this, given that there are a number of unknowns that I still possess.
Yeah, if, my thought is, if a drug treatment facility, if you take out the word assisted living facility, is a drug treatment facility a facility to provide housing and supportive services, supervision, personalized assistance, health-related services, or a combination thereof that meets the needs of individuals who are unable to perform or who need assistance in performing the activities of daily living in a way that promotes optimum dignity and independence for the individuals. And if it is, then why not just have it has to be defined. So why not have a separate definition, drug treatment facility, and say that's the definition, and then determine, its allowances on where it should reside. And I don't understand why, if assisted living, for all these other, challenges, are allowed conditionally, then why wouldn't drug treatment facility be allowed? I understand that one size doesn't fit all. We talked about Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or whatever, that really just jumped to mind. But one size doesn't fit all, but it's got to be defined. So, I wouldn't mind looking at it as a separate definition and then going down the use table and determining where it belongs.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing it back to the conversation of definitions. I don't find this complicated at all. I don't find this discussion complicated at all, and I think we're conflating things here. We do have a serious issue going on in the county. I think a lot of other counties are struggling with this, where almost overnight you have drug treatment facilities popping up in quiet little residential neighborhoods, and I don't have to explain to people what that means for the people that live there. So that's a serious issue. It's going to warrant a lot more discussion. But this is about definitions, and this is about the land use table that we own as the commissioners. And it's simply about definitions at this point, because we're not going to be able to address the larger problem unless we, as Commissioner Rothstein said, we define things properly. Now, I think we're going to have some disagreements on how things should be defined, because I don't think one thing is another, and I'm going to insist that's be taken out of here. But these are conditional uses. So when it's going before the Board of Zoning Appeals, we have to give our zoning administrator, whoever that is, the right tools to do the job. And this was highlighted with the case recently, and it's only grown since then. I mean, we have never, again, public feedback's important. It's not always a determination of what we should do, but we've never gotten this much feedback ever from people in the county. So I understand what Commissioner Vigliotti is saying, that there's our larger issues here, but I really don't think we should be too concerned about those. I think we have to own our own land use tables. We have to define things, because that's what people in the county deserve. They deserve to know what's being proposed in their neighborhood. And, I'm going to get a little, esoteric. I mean, I care about all human beings. I get that. We all do. Nobody should have to stand up at any point and say, I really want people to get better. We all agree to that. But I'm elected a commissioner in Carroll County, and I have a soft spot in my heart for human beings that live in Carroll County. And this is the right thing for people in Carroll County, and it's fairly simple, I think. We just have to define the definitions. I think going forward with the definition of drug treatment facility and conditional use is a no-brainer, and I think it's there, and I think it works, but I will insist that we do differentiate between nursing homes and drug treatment facilities, or assisted living facilities and drug treatment facilities, because they're not the same. And let's just agree to that. They're not going to go away overnight, and then we're going to have to figure out, I mean, are those, but again, the bottom line is, it's our land use table. I don't think this is a particularly complicated issue. I think this is all about definitions and being honest with people. You know, there's an old saying, if you want to help people, you'll tell them the truth. If you don't, you'll just insist on hearing what you want to hear. And I just think we're just trying to be honest with people in the county. So,
Yeah, I think, no, I mean, again, if we take out the word assisted living facility and we put in the word drug treatment facility and create a separate definition, the verbiage may be exactly the same. I mean, it may resemble the exact same as an assisted living facility, as opposed to combining.
So that,
I apologize.
that is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you reading off of that?
License.
so
Okay,
should we vote on these separately, or how does that
Okay,
work?
so,
And
Thank
maybe
you.
maybe I should be clear.
so bear with me a
apologize.
second.
So there is
I do,
proposed definition, yeah. Just
okay,
like-
thank you.
I think Commissioner Garen's point is he does not believe that it should be included and wrapped into either nursing home or assisted
No,
living.
and that's just new
Standalone
language,
item.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be the debate amongst the five of us, but I think it sounds like we do all agree that there needs to be a definition for what a drug treatment facility is. And I'm just, at this point, and are we going to try to tackle
Yeah.
this all in one vote, or do we vote on these changes separately? That seems to be the one we
So
can all.
why don't we take a look? My recommendation is, if it's okay, let's look at this definition that's in front of us right now and take a vote on this definition that's being recommended to us. And then we can have a further discussion now from this definition, the conversation about the conditional uses and stuff like that.
Right, so I think the question then would be.
I apologize.
Once you define it,
Yeah,
if you,
Right.
if you agree with this or some
Right.
other change,
Okay.
then where does it go?
yeah, okay.
And the current thought is it would
Yeah.
go in the same place that
But
assisted living and
let's tackle that in this, let's tackle that in a minute. And I do apologize going down a path that had already been done. So with the new language and the new definition, is there either a motion to move forward with this definition or something else?
Specifically for drug treatment facility.
What's right in front of us?
And let me, and I apologize before we get into that. If I conflated anything or if it was confusing, I do want to apologize. My issue is not with drug treatment facility, but with incorporating elements of that into other definitions, and I think we were on the same
Okay.
page with that.
Yeah, I
So I
think so.
apologize if if I was talking it,
Nope.
okay.
I think, again, we were looking at the one slide, and we should have been looking at this slide. No, Mayor, I appreciate it. So, with that said, with the new language that's been recommended to us on defining drug treatment facility, are we satisfied that this is an acceptable language to define a drug treatment facility? That's what I'd like to know.
Motion to approve the definition of drug treatment facility under 158.002 definitions.
So,
No,
I'm
go
sorry, we need a second.
Is there a second on this?
Second.
You second?
So,
Mike has it.
Oh, Mike did? Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second, open discussion.
okay, so your motion is to approve this as written?
Correct.
Specifically the drug
that
treatment.
one.
Right.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, I just want to say a couple of things. And A, this has nothing to do with recovery houses and residential. I think there's a lot of confusion on that. This isn't going to change that. As far as these facilities, I'm a believer in landowner rights. And I'm sure everybody has, I've been touched by this. We want to claim that we care about the opioid problem. We want to claim that we care about mental health. I had a family member who had both problems and committed suicide wearing my clothing when they found the body. We either care about these facilities or we don't. And I don't care if any of these was next door to me. I don't care if an Alzheimer patient or just somebody old like me or somebody with opioid issues is found sitting on my front porch. I feel strongly, and I'm not sure what we can do with recovery houses. I also feel very strongly, if I own land and I want to do whatever, one of these, I need to do it and totally comply with the law. I see people that have illegal access, that don't enforce things on their property, and we need to do something about that. But I feel strongly, I was happy with these definitions. I think we're clarifying things, but I think a lot of people think if we do this or don't do this, it's going to affect whether or not there can be 3 recovery houses in a neighborhood. This has nothing to do with that. That's a whole nother step that we need to discuss. But I just feel like a nursing home, an assisted care facility, and a drug treatment facility, and it's conditional. You have to go through and testify and let it happen. But I just feel like we need them. And if everybody doesn't want them in their neighborhood, I'm not sure where we ever put it. That's my concern.
So, okay. I appreciate that. Good discussion. Because that's going to be part of the next discussion as well, which I definitely appreciate. With the motion and the second regarding the new language to define 158.002 drug treatment facility, is there any further discussion on that?
I just want to clarify one thing, and I'm reading this correctly, but I just want to make sure everybody else is aware that's viewing this. So we're only at this point creating a definition specifically that states what a drug treatment facility is.
Correct.
Exactly. Okay.
Yep, that's correct. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, that's half the concerns that are been voiced by our community and also up here at the dais. Is now that we've defined this, it's exactly what Commissioner Guerin was going back to, is the land use. Should it be permitted and or conditional in the same locations as the assisted living, because that's where all this kind of bubbled up from, or should it be permitted and or conditional use in other locations? And that's going back to the discussion that you were going down. You believe conditional use in residential, exactly where assisted living.
We're not talking about residential, are we?
This definition we're talking about the residential districts, but again, as you've said, we are not talking about the recovery houses of 8 and under. This will not affect that at all.
This is drug treatment facilities. Currently, assisted living facilities are allowed conditionally in all residential locations.
Districts.
Districts.
Yes.
Okay. I was close. Okay. So now, should drug treatment facility as defined in front of us be allowed in the same districts as assisted living? And that's where the concerns are, right?
Well,
I mean, that's
my concern with the new definition. Let's say I have one of the 3. I have a nursing home on my property, and I want to change it to a drug treatment facility, which now is a different definition. Does that mean I go back through conditional use, or I already have the conditional use to do any of the 3?
Wouldn't you have to go back?
Because that's the critical part, I think. To me, my personal opinion, if it's conditional and people have the right to come forward and object to it and talk about it, then I'm okay with it. But if I can say, well, I want a nursing home, and then next week say, well, I got approved for that, but I think I'm changing it to a drug treatment, that's not fair to the community.
it's a different
They should get their
definition.
voice. So what happens now?
Wouldn't you have to go through the
Let's
process?
take it off of this, because we haven't ever had a definition, a separate definition of this. So may I change the example? If it were a conditional use, give me another conditional use, a contractor's equipment storage yard, is that a good one?
And then you want to change
Change
it
it
to a
to-
junkyard, which is different.
Which is, okay.
Then you
So-
need a new conditional use for the
Yeah.
junkyard.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so the way we currently operate, and I'm looking at Jay Voigt as well, is if you have one conditional use and you want to change that use to something else, we would make you go through the conditional use process again.
So by
back-
doing different definitions, we have made that this would be the same way. Before, it was all one thing. Now it's separate. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So no, I think your example is, honestly, is spot on. Is, a nursing home, conditional use, it's in place. They want to change it to a drug treatment facility. Now, drug treatment facility is defined. We look it up. We look at the land use. It is conditional. It has to go through the same process as, a conditional use. So now, we focused on the definition. Definition is complete. Now let's focus on land use. Currently, now we got to put it someplace. And currently, the closest thing we have to this that has been used has been the assisted living
And nursing home, yeah.
and nursing home. So at least we're starting from something. And that is conditional use in residential districts, along with,
Ag, conservation, and permitted in the commercial districts, so the conditional use wouldn't apply. But if you're trying to make it mirror the assisted living and nursing, it would be permitted in all 3 commercial, conditional in all 4 residential, conditional in ag and conservation.
so the concern was, should this be mirrored or should it not be mirrored? And if it's not mirrored because of the community's input, which I appreciate Commissioner Guerin, bringing up, it is now our job, sitting up here to say, where should it be?
And is that something that we can do up here right now? You might want some time to think about that, because that's one of my concerns. I mean, we need to clearly do this.
I think it's a good point, because
But-
we've done the definition.
Well-
Now, if we're going to say where, do we need to open it up to public comment and go through the
That
process?
was why I was suggesting tabling
Or
it.
can we
because
do it,
there's-
yeah. or
Well,
can we
I
do
still
that
think then
today?
we move forward with
More-
definitions, and we have
More
some.
importantly, if we can do it today, should we?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and so that's
Yeah.
my concern. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I think at least I agreed very strongly that this had to start with definitions. You can't have an honest debate about where these things belong and where they don't unless you have definitions. So I think we're getting there now, but I'm concerned that I think some of us are very much opposed to these things being in certain zoning, very much opposed. But I think those of us who feel that way need to be smart about it for obvious reasons. So is that something we should even be talking about now?
Well, the way the proposal is written, drug treatment facilities could go in any zone that a nursing home or an assisted living facility could go in. That's what the public has been notified of.
And those are definitions that I actually want to change, because I think those are wrong.
Okay.
But, I mean, so that's where we maybe should just focus on the definitions at this point. You understand my question?
Yes.
I mean, we're getting into the secondary and tertiary debates of this issue, which are important.
Right, and I think they're necessarily directly related to it.
And that's what I think, were probably referring to, and I misread what you
Oh, no,
had said.
I should have been clearer. I apologize.
So certainly the board can decide to table the decision on where it goes until a later date. We can get we can have work sessions, have more information, what the pros and cons of doing different things are. The board could also just say, we agree that these should go the same place that the other two go. I think if the board, and Tim, correct me if you're wrong, wanted to change markedly from where assisted and nursing homes go, that would probably require a whole nother public hearing process. That, because as Tim said at the beginning, if we go too far from what the public was notified on, then, and modify that, then they haven't had the right to.
But I don't think that's the concern right now, is it?
It's part of my concern. And I'm prepared to do that. I'm prepared to have that discussion. I think we need to,
But I think to Commissioner Guerin's point, if we're looking at just solely the definitions, and I'm just going to run with this for a second, if we were not to modify, say, assisted living and nursing home and not allow the drug treatment facility portion to be added, those two would still stand as they currently sit in the use chart. Now, theoretically, what we could do is we could look at these definitions, make a decision on the definitions today, which I agree with Commissioner Guerin. That's sort of, to me, where this all starts. And we could table a decision as to where these various facilities are currently, where we make that decision. We could come back to that. That I could see doing.
Yeah, that's.
But what's the point of adopting a definition of drug treatment facility if you don't have anywhere to put them? If you're not going to direct staff or adopt legislation?
well, that's the next step, I guess, because I thought we had to do this first. I mean, I think clearly we do. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just.
and we did. So now,
Okay, can I ask
Yeah,
one more
sure.
question? If, let's say we approve the definitions, and now we want to say, for just an example, drug treatment facilities do not belong in residential. What all does that change? How complicated is that for our codes? If we do something that for us is that simple, is it doable?
It's doable from a drafting of the code
Yeah.
point, but I would refer to Mr. Burke.
Again, that's not what we advertised.
I know, that's what I'm, so,
If you're going to deviate from what was advertised, then we do need to go back and start.
So we can vote on the definitions, we like them, we don't like them, but we can also say publicly, we want to talk now about where each one can go, and we can do that.
Yes.
But we shouldn't do it today.
Would there
That makes sense to
Would there
me.
be any challenge in just doing the definitions at this point?
Again, I asked.
Or do you feel like we're splitting that in half?
You'll have the zoning administrator with the definition of drug treatment facilities and nowhere to go with them. I mean, that doesn't help him.
Well, until we make a decision on where they go, the code allows them to go anyplace. So we didn't change that, so he's, while we talk amongst ourselves, he's still going to go by what's in black and white now.
But if you
Correct.
adopt a definition of a drug treatment facility
Which
and a
we
drug
did.
treatment facility application comes in, what does he do with it?
Right. You have to tell them where to put it.
so we did that. That's my concern is, we adopted a definition
Well,
of,
yeah.
well,
Yes.
we
It's on the
did.
table, yes.
Yeah. Yep.
No, we
They
voted,
voted.
we voted,
Yeah,
and it's
if we
done.
did-
So we voted on a drug treatment facility. Now, like you said, the question is, where do we believe the drug treatment facility, as defined, should be allowed to go? And, I mean, that's the question. It's not, like we've seen some feedback about, well, drug treatment facilities are not nursing homes. We got that. So that's why we further defined it, to make it very clear, this is a drug treatment facility. This is not a nursing home or assisted living facility as defined. It's a drug treatment facility.
Would
So now,
And if one comes in next week, if we weren't having this discussion, we change the definitions, but they can still go
Can I?
wherever's in the code now, we didn't change that, so.
Can I?
w-
There-
But
he's-
there's no, so just to be clear, so if you adopt this definition without saying where it goes, there's a disconnect. Because everything that's we don't, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have a blanket statement that if it's defined and not put somewhere, it can go anywhere. Or some semblance thereof. Every definition, everything has a place. So now we have a thing, we stand at the moment based on the board's vote, we have a thing, but we have no place. So I see a couple options. You can go back and undo your, say, okay, we didn't understand that, and I'm sorry if we didn't give you good direction or good assistance in making decisions. But you can go back and say, okay, for the moment, we don't want to adopt this definition because we don't have a place to put it, and we want to talk about the place more. That's one option. Or you can keep with your vote that you've taken this definition and talk about where you want to put it. Or the third option. I had a third option there for a second. Darn.
A moratorium on any and all new drug treatment facilities until such time as to, is that applicable? Is that possible?
That's new legislation would be required.
Is it
for
a
that.
moratorium?
Yeah, that would require a whole public hearing process. That wasn't my
The
third
challenge is, if we undo this, if we unravel this, we're back to where we were, which is creating subjectivity on how to define a drug treatment facility someplace. And that's what got us into this, situation, was it was being defined as the same needs as a nursing home and other things, and the community said, well, no, this is not a nursing home, so don't call it a nursing home or anything like that. So I don't want to go back. I want to go forward saying, this is a definition, and, I don't like moratorium approach, but I feel like, we should have the ability to look at this now and come up with something on where it can go conditionally. It doesn't have to be permitted, it could be conditional, and we can further develop that, but.
So, I mean, if that helps us get through this and everything we're doing today is going to affect the conditional use, and we do that, I would just be one of those commissioners who would want to immediately pivot and start having these discussions about where it shouldn't be. Because I think if we try to do that today and decide where it should be and shouldn't, I think we're going to be here for days. And we can have that discussion, I think, immediately after following this. So,
Well, how long is that process if we pass the definitions and we say we need to talk about where? How long is that process? How long have we created chaos?
I'm sure you're going to want to meet. You're going to have a discussion, a workshop.
Is there any legal reason that it needs to take 6 weeks or 1 month or we?
No, there are some advertising requirements that we would have to.
But again,
that's about 2 weeks.
It's either staying raveled the way we made a decision, or unraveling it and going back to where we were, which to me was very chaotic, because the way we were gives our zoning administrator the subjective, with his, expertise and experience to how to define X.
So
And I don't believe that's a good position to put our zoning administrator. I want to provide as much clarity to say this is how it should be defined. Now that it's defined, let's figure out, from all the feedback, like you said, from the community, but also from up here and, the experience, where should we authorize these drug treatment facilities to go, whether it's permitted or conditional, and then we can also further go down the road. That's my thoughts.
And I think the dilemma is doing that would probably be a good decision, but can we today when we didn't advertise that we were going to do that? And that's where
If you're telling me you want to put these only allowed in the industrial zone, that's a major change.
Yeah.
You know, if only in the commercial zone,
Yeah.
that's a major change.
Yeah.
from-
Let
from
me,
what the
let me
public
ask
knows.
Mr. Burke a question. Since obviously we voted on one definition, which seems to be floating out there right now with nowhere to land, would it be possible to leave that definition temporarily, table this, since obviously the language that was put out in advertisement was one thing, the public was made aware of one thing, we're clearly not where that currently is, and in the meantime, us to revisit this on our end of things and kind of have a conversation?
Yeah, that was certainly one of the options, yes.
Yeah. So for that reason, I would then, and then maybe we have to withdraw that last motion, but I would propose that the definitions that we're going to discuss and vote on today be concluded in conditional use only. In the meantime, at least it provides a judicial proceeding for residents to attend with some real definitions. And then I think the consensus amongst the board is that we're immediately going to pivot into where these don't belong. But to Mr. Burke's point, if we go any further than that, I think we might be going backwards. So
My
I
biggest,
can agree to that for now, that they,
Can I ask for clarification, just to make sure? So you want to pass the definition for drug treatment facility and also say they go where the nursing homes and the assisted livings go?
well, then we have other definitions to talk about, of course, but I thought that's what we were basically being told. If we're going to try to cherry pick where these go, then we might get ourselves into trouble. But the genre of these definitions is all conditional use. I mean, all these are conditional use, so if we stick with conditional use, we can move forward, make some decisions, I think, that aid us later, quite soon, to discuss more about where these things really belong, where they don't.
so I understand, and again, it's not like, you know, a half a dozen drug treatment facilities are going to be knocking on the door right this second. However, with that said, with that said, we're putting our zoning administrator and the
BZA.
the BZA in a position of authority that it takes it away from us. I don't know if I want to do that right now, because the BZA has the authority to looking at conditional use and then saying granted, and we don't have a method of it coming back to us, do we?
No, right, no, that's the
So
process.
I don't want it to go to the BZA as defined if their concern to the community is that it can go anywhere, and then the BZA say yes, and it takes us out of the equation.
Or you can always, I think Commissioner Guerin's point is you can, is to get this drug treatment facility definition in the works and then revisit it soon, very soon, so that you can then
Oh, I have no
more
problem. I have no problem
clearly
with that.
define where they go.
I have no problem with that part of it. My concern is if we put land use associated with it, even conditional, it gives the BZA the authority to make a decision
Right.
that takes us out of our hands, and I don't know if that's what either the community or we want at this time. I mean, because if we say conditional use, just like assisted living in nursing homes and, you know, residential, then the BZA can make a decision, say, yep, let's go with it. It takes it out of us. That's not the intent, I don't believe. I think we want to further define it in the land use to provide the BZA the direction necessary. So in other words, if it's residential and we have 4 residential, you know, 4 or 5?
4.
4. If we have 4 definitions of residential districts, and we say, okay, it is not permitted in, you know, 1 and 2, the smallest, you know, parcels. It is permitted in, or 1, 2, and 3, but it's permitted in, conditionally permitted in the largest parcel. It at least gives, you know, the BZA something, or not BZA, just the
BZA. It really is a
well,
BZA decision.
Well, a BZA decision, but it gives our zoning administrator something to go with. So, and then, if we do that, then we can further have these workshops and do something. You know, that would be my recommendation, is define it somewhere, not define it, but provide land use location somewhere. Because my concern is if we leave it the way it is, and we just carte blanche the way it is, that's dangerous to the community, and I don't want that, because it gives the BZA the authority. So I want to, you're looking at me kind of.
Yeah, you want to pass the, if I understand correctly, you want to pass the drug treatment facility definition, and you want to determine where it goes today.
Or
And
at least start the determination
You-
and
Got to
further
put it at least
define
one
it.
place,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. And then have what you said, have that, you know, gathering and say, okay, where else do we want to allow this thing to go?
I think the challenge, though, to that point, and I hear where you're coming from, though, is if we leave this wide open in that sense, though, what's to stop somebody from coming in the door tomorrow and wanting to apply for X, and maybe we want to not include X later?
I know, but that's why I don't want to leave it wide open. I want to leave the door open,
But I,
but.
Correct.
I guess the question is it more wide open if we don't pass this, or is it more wide open if we pass this definition? I think this definition might be the right first step. We just need to accomplish where as quickly as possible.
I think it leaves it wide open if we don't make these definitions, because it's got to be defined somewhere. And in accordance with our zoning administrator and his expertise in the job he has, he's defining it in something. And once it's defined somewhere, then you look at it and say, here's the land use. And that goes right back to, well, it's not a nursing home. And we agree. We all agree that it's not a nursing home. But you got to put it somewhere.
You gotta
And
put it
now having it into a separate definition.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. But Commissioner Collar's point about doing something now
I
might
just
be
want to
better
say
than
it's
doing nothing.
10:58, and he said I'm absolutely right. Marking it.
Chris Swam is bookmarking that right now. No, I think everybody's heart's in the right place, and for people watching and people here, you can see this is a commissioner form of government. There's 5 of us up here. We've got to work through these things, and we don't do it in private. We don't. We do it out in public. But I just, for the purpose of being able to get through everything, I wonder if now isn't the better time to just approve these. And I think what we're missing is that we have some definitions that I think we need to change and modify that talk about what isn't a drug treatment facility. I think if we move forward with this definition and then we modify what it isn't in the interim, it's probably better than doing nothing. But I understand Commissioner Rossi. I understand your point. I mean, why if you're going to do it, do it right. I just don't know if we can do that right now.
Well, so if we look at the other definitions, go to the next slide, please. And we take out the drug treatment facility, and is under, wait a second, may also mean a drug treatment facility, and take that out and keep it, because that's what you're saying, is take out the drug treatment facility, I mean, don't even recognize it in this definition, because it's not assisted living the way it's defined, is what we're saying. Same thing with nursing home.
Yes.
Yep.
And just take it out. So now we
Is
have
what I
3
was gonna
definitions.
suggest,
We have
yeah.
a assisted living, a nursing home, and a drug treatment facility. All 3 that I care about very deeply, just as Commissioner Kyler was, sharing. So once we do that, okay, then we say we have land use accepted for nursing home and for assisted living and retreat facility, all this other stuff. Now, let's look at the beginning of defining locations, districts for drug treatment facility. And we don't have to go overboard. We can start and then, like you said, get back together. But if we do this and define it, I want to make sure I'm given the tools necessary for our zoning and BZA. I don't want to open it up because it gives the BZA too much authority that I don't agree with right now with what they're doing. So my recommendation is if we modify these definitions, as I shared, and then we look at
Where it goes.
where drug treatment facility goes, and we get ourselves in a position to have, a workshop, and we've done them before with you and with Jay and others, and say, okay, how do we best define this? And those workshops are also open to the community, and they're aired. So, is that a path forward?
I'm agreeable to that. I guess my one question, and I don't know if I'm allowed to ask any questions right now of people in the audience, but I mean, for particularly the zoning administrator, do we need to go a step further and just say what something isn't, or is that enough to just take that out of there completely? Is that sort of the inherent message that if you got definitions for everything, you don't necessarily have to go in and say a nursing home is not a drug treatment facility? But if we have to do that, then we probably should.
You don't have to do that, but you do need to have it in the use table, because I like the way Roberta put it. You're creating a definition, it needs a place to land.
Yeah, so
That's what you're suggesting.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So
So-
I don't think we want to say it is not
You don't
because.
need to, as long as you're putting it in the
Okay.
use table as a separate use,
Okay.
then it's very clear what it's not, because it is something.
Okay.
So can I, and I apologize, I don't mean to cause any more difficulty here, but if somebody
Go
comes in and says, somebody comes in and says, I have a license from the state of Maryland for a drug treatment facility that also falls under the umbrella of a nursing home, right? I guess I'm a little confused, because according to the definitions, the way that they're proposed, if it's under a license or certificate issued by the state of Maryland as a nursing home, for the purpose of this chapter, a nursing home may also mean a drug treatment
That's going
facility.
away.
We're taking that away.
But the state can still license somebody for that, and then what happens?
No, my intent is, excuse me, we're taking that away. We're saying this is what a nursing home is.
Yep.
Period. This is what a retreat facility, all these facilities are, and we're not saying it is not, because once you say it is not, then the question is, okay, what else is it not? So let's just,
So-
this is clear, and this is
You're
what.
saying
Yeah.
under nursing home, strike the last sentence.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Does that cover us?
That was proposed new language anyways.
Yeah.
If you're going in that direction, you don't need any of this, what
Right.
it is, what it isn't. You've just
Correct.
created the drug treatment
I would
facility
take out the
and
red.
As long as you correspondingly put it in the use table as a use.
Yes.
You don't need,
And regulations as well, bulk
Correct.
requirements.
So, okay.
That's what I would like.
And I apologize, because I really am trying to get to the heart of the concern that I have. So state definitions do or do not supersede our own in this particular instance. For example, if a state licenses a drug recovery center as X, but we define it as Y, does their definition supersede? So we can sit here and we can say, okay, well, we're going to leave the definition of nursing home as it is, right? And I have no objection to doing that, because again, everybody knows I agree that a drug treatment facility is not a nursing home. But if the state says otherwise, what happens to us? And that's part of my concern here. That's part of why.
Well, your concern is that can the state usurp the definitions of us?
I think
Go
that's
ahead.
respectfully a misreading of
Right.
of that last sentence.
Right.
It says may also mean a drug treatment facility if licensed by the state of Maryland. I think that's referring to the drug treatment facility, not the nursing home.
If I'm misreading it, I'm totally okay with that.
My-
but from
my-
the-
So under assisted living and nursing home, we just want to strike the last sentence.
no, you don't need to. You don't need to do anything. The
So
definitions
just
already-
leave the
Leave them
definitions as is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they
And
don't
then
need
how
to.
about
So,
retreat
I
facility?
apologize.
Then why do we
Take
need to
out the
do
red.
that?
He's saying take out the red.
The red is added language.
So
I
we
was
don't
saying the
want.
last sentence.
Yeah, you're right. Same.
But if we don't need to, in other words, you're saying if we defined number one and we're happy, we don't need to change the next two.
As long as you're going to regulate it separately, it was never.
Correct.
This legislation was just to clarify all the definitions, but if you're
Okay.
going to just accept the first definition, then you need to regulate it separately, both in the use table and the bulk requirement regulations. Because it's a separate, what you're creating is a separate
Yeah.
use and
Yeah.
not saying it's part of the.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so let's try to be clear on this.
Try.
We already I'm going to amend the motion for definition to accept the definition as new language for drug treatment facility and do not accept the new language for assisted living facility, daycare center, nursing home, and retreat facility.
I'm amenable to that motion, and with all due respect to Tim, I mean, just I guess the difficulty that
Second.
I'm having in understanding.
I apologize. Hold on a second. I got a motion. Who seconded it? Okay, Mike seconded it, so,
I apologize.
oh, go for
What
it.
was your original motion?
My original motion, yeah, just for the definition of drug treatment facility.
Yeah, so he already made that motion. We already passed number one,
No, I know. I'm just amending it to take out all the other
We have to
red.
go back.
but we don't need to because he never put it in. Right?
Okay, yeah, I mean, we could do that.
Well, but no, but I
That's
think what Commissioner Rothstein is looking
Yeah.
at, though, is what our briefing books, it says we have to reject the proposed amendments as one of the options. So I think that
Right.
That
we
was
do
why
have
I
to
thought, yeah.
reject these recommendations from Planning and Zoning Commission, which I disagreed with the second I saw, and I'm happy to do that.
So it's 11:08 and he's agreeing with me again.
I know,
Go ahead.
yeah, something's in the
scary.
water.
It's the season of.
As long as what
Thanksgiving.
we're doing is, I'm simple. We passed number one. We're not changing number two and number three.
That's correct.
And however you want to word it, as
Okay.
long as that's the intention. And then we don't need to say, I don't think today, and as quickly as possible, we want to get into where number one goes. I think that
You have to
doesn't need to be a
I
motion.
think today you have to
have
say
to.
where number one goes,
Somewhere,
Today.
yes,
someplace.
someplace.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be wide, but, okay, so we'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
Let me
let's
just
do-
finish
Let's do
this.
this one.
Motion second. I think we're all in agreement. You good?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Understanding that now we're only accepting the new language for number one, no new language for the others.
Three. Right.
Now, for the use table,
And I apologize, Commissioner. I really do have to get to this point because I understand I may have misread it or maybe I'm just misunderstanding it, but that's why I'm trying to seek clarification when it. So the definition as had been proposed talked about whether something may be licensed under the state as a drug treatment facility, right? And I guess the difficulty that I'm having is if this wasn't a definition and the state said we're going to license X as a drug treatment facility, which also falls under the definition of a nursing home or an assisted living facility, right? That's where I'm having the confusion because we don't recognize it as such, but if the state recognizes it as such, how does that affect us? And I apologize if I'm not, am I being clear? Am I?
Well, a little like the group homes, the small group homes. The state has preempted the counties from regulating those. So the state, as much as we don't like to think ourselves up, we are a creation of the state, and the state does have the ability to pass statutes that can override or supersede ours. That would take a act of the General Assembly, to do something like that. But there have been those instances, where that has happened, and that group home example is one that I can think of right off the top of my head. So currently, that is not the situation, but there's January's coming.
But currently, we're not at risk.
yeah, we're not at risk.
Okay, and that was, I apologize, Tim, because that was the heart of what I was trying to get to. Because and I apologize if I did not make clear enough. Was I clear with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, all
Don't,
right.
don't apologize to Mr. Burke. What's up with that?
The all of these facilities, as they're defined currently, the existing assisted living, nursing home, and now the drug treatment, all have to be licensed facilities by the state. So we don't regulate them.
And I just
So-
didn't want to make sure that there was another way for the state to come into. Okay.
Oh, there's always another way.
Well,
So now, in putting and only focused on drug treatment facility as defined, so it's clearly defined, not as anything else, but as defined here as drug treatment facility, we got to put it in a place. Now, it doesn't have to be every place. It has to be a place to start with, and then we can further define locations under recommendations, and we can have workshop, whatever we want to do. So right now.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
So right now, The other facilities are authorized in agricultural conservation, all residential conditional use, and commercial, correct?
Commercial permitted.
Commercial
The
permitted.
earlier ones that you, the
The
six you
earlier, the
mentioned are
earlier
all
ones,
conditional.
correct. The concern seems to be the residential, and currently, I think there's agreement that we're not looking at throwing it in the same vein as the others, so putting it in residential in all 4 locations conditionally is a concern. So if we just start with 1, at the largest lot size, it at least gets us started in a direction.
Well, if we can do one, we can do them all. And so to me,
Yeah,
I
okay,
think for
okay.
now, it sounds like the consensus is someone make a motion that this new defined drug treatment facility is a conditional use in everything but residential, however right wording is, in commercial, and why can't we do that and be done?
Where do hospitals and urgent care centers and first care centers, where do those currently fall under?
Actually, hospitals, because our hospital is in it, is in the R20, so that's probably not a good place to start. That was more of a accommodating what's existing.
Yeah,
And
it
what-
came long before
Right.
Gotcha.
zoning was
The
there.
code reflects where it was.
And so what about like a first care clinic, or a,
That's commercial, right?
Commercial locations.
Like an urgent care, yeah.
That'd be commercial.
Doc in the
Medical
box.
facility, right, that's a commercial.
so is it too far of a stretch to say that for the time being, we'll relegate these to commercial?
Are they also located, I apologize, just real quick, are they also located in C1?
I believe so, yes.
So C1, you got to recognize, is commercial and residential
Okay.
communities, which, again,
Like a mixed.
like
All 3 of the.
senior facilities and things like that, a couple are being built on Eldersburg.
All 3 of the commercials.
Yes, all 3 of the
All
commercials.
3 of the commercials
permitted by
are
right.
permitted,
Excuse me.
As permitted, yeah, you're right, yeah.
as permitted.
They're permitted there. There's no conditional use currently.
Correct, okay,
Correct.
that's, yeah.
Okay.
I could be amenable to that, and I just want to make sure, again, are we certain that we don't have to make sure we define what it isn't? I understand what you're saying. By adding the definition, inherently now you have, what it isn't, but I'm concerned that if we don't, nursing homes will still be allowed in residential. So, by adding this definition, are we removing the need to talk about what it isn't? We're
If
getting very
someone-
esoteric here. Or, I don't know what that word is, but
That's a big word.
Joe, you could probably, Commissioner Bigley probably knows what that means. I don't know.
I don't know.
If someone comes in with an application for a drug treatment facility, it's going to be treated as an application for a drug treatment facility.
Okay.
Right now, there was no definition.
Okay.
That was the problem, the issue.
So,
But right now, I could apply for a drug treatment facility as a conditional use in residential.
well, not now because it's not defined yet.
It would be
it's-
classified as an assisted living facility
Right.
or a nursing home. You would try and pigeonhole into one of those definitions.
Right,
Unless we
before you
now-
pass this
Right.
definition.
Unless we put it there
sorry.
now.
Sorry, sir. Before you pass this definition, as it stands at 8 o'clock this morning, yes, you could apply and you'd go in the same place. It's a nursing home or an assisted living.
Yes, but now that the definition's there, where can I apply for conditional use for a drug treatment facility?
Wherever you tell us to put it in the use table.
But if we don't say anything, what's the downside if we don't do this?
There's no place to
You
put it.
can't do it any place.
You can't, right. There's no, it's just a definition floating out there for which we have no use, really.
So if you can't do it anywhere, why don't we let them come up with where, knowing we don't want it in residential and maybe not in C1? And, because I still think we're overstepping what we said we were going to do today. Now, if we're not, I don't care, but if they can't do one, in other words, if they can't do one anyplace right now, let's decide where they can.
So your thought is to have them come back with suggestions to us about potential locations?
Yes,
I
because,
don't think we're overstepping. I think,
okay.
that, you know, if we take a look at how it's defined, how it's defined, and if there's a consensus amongst us that it should not be
This is my old-
located
That's my old sheet
in
that I used.
residential,
It's the same thing on here.
then that's okay. Then we look at, is there a consensus of agricultural, conservation, and the rest?
Because our motion needs to say where it is allowed,
That's
not
correct.
where it isn't.
That's
Yes.
correct. So, so you look at it and say, I mean, but among this discussion, if there's a consensus amongst us saying that it doesn't belong in residential, then let's, okay, take that off the table. Now let's have,
Sorry to interrupt you. Remember the preemption issue? Again, the group homes of up to 8 individuals are allowed in any zone, in residential zones.
Yeah, we're not,
Large
we can't
halfway
change
houses
that.
of up to 16 are allowed at any zone which allows multifamily uses, similar density. So if you have
Right.
apartments, what zones would that be?
Or 75.
This
Yeah,
is
so
the use tables.
when you say no residential, you're preempted of, in some cases, up to 16 individuals.
say that one more time, I
The
apologize.
state of Maryland has preempted you from regulating small halfway houses of up to 8 individuals are allowed in any residential zone they considered residences. Large halfway houses of up to 16 individuals are allowed, they're considered multifamily dwellings, and they're permitted to locate in zones of similar density. So if you have a zone that allows an apartment building or a boarding house or that sort of thing.
And these could fall, this would fall under those,
Yes, up to
Wait.
16.
up to 16.
Up to the size.
16.
Up to the
So I don't want
size.
to give anyone the impression that this is it for the residential.
Okay,
You're still
so,
free.
so to better, you know, and this is, I mean, this is very important discussion. To better provide the direction is within our authority. What are we allowing or not allowing? So within our authority, we can say in no residential locations. Correct, Tim? I mean, that's, because we don't have that authority to say yes or no. I mean, we could say, you know, if it comes to us, we could say no. But if they go to the state,
Well, they all come to you. It's just, I mean, you know, the group homes, they don't go to the state for permission for the small ones. But
Right.
yeah, you would have to exempt somehow, make it clear that the group homes as regulated by the state aren't covered by
Which
your
the
zoning
use
code.
table does, because it says assisted living 8 and under, assisted living over 8, and this definition you're creating isn't going to affect any of the 8 and under at all,
okay,
Yeah.
my understanding. So you would just be putting your new drug treatment facility into the use table,
Right.
taking out the assisted living of over 8, and that would be replacing it. No, you wouldn't take it out because you'd still leave it
Add
for
to.
assisted living. You would add it, and it would,
Be only over 8. That you'd be regulating.
okay.
So this
Thank you,
definition
Mayor.
doesn't apply to recovery houses.
No.
So if we say no residential, just, we need the public to understand, we can't change the recovery houses
Right.
because that's state law.
Right,
We need to go
Right.
to our delegation and let them try.
right.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
But specifically drug treatment facilities is what we're talking about, correct? Okay.
So why don't we say outside of residential, the same land use locations as the other homes in commercial, conservation, agriculture?
Are you okay in C1?
Yes,
Now, those are permitted by right
commercial.
in commercial, all 3 commercial.
So,
I can bend to conditional in C1 because.
yeah, they're all,
C-
it's,
No, it's not. It's, right now it's permitted.
In the commercial
In
zone.
commercial zones, it's permitted.
okay, so we
So-
want to change, so we want to say,
Conditional in C1, permitted in C2, C3, permitted in agricultural and conservation.
But it wasn't permitted before, it was conditional.
In the commercial districts, it's always
No,
been.
no, but.
Oh, in
but-
ag
yeah,
and
but-
conservation?
Conservation, it's conditional.
Oh, it's conditional, so
Yeah.
leave it as,
Yes.
I apologize, so leave it as conditional. So, one more time. And I'm more than happy to make this motion, is the land use table should reflect drug treatment facilities as permitted use in C2 and C3, conditional use in C1, agricultural and conservation.
That cover them all?
Yes.
Good motion. I'll second it. That way we agree once today.
11:23. Okay. I got a motion, I got a second. Is there any further discussion on this?
Are there any?
I think it's meeting all of
I
the
think.
concerns.
I think it does for now. Thank you, by the way. I think it does for now, but if, again, nursing, if before the BZA, I'm just concerned that we make sure people understand that they're not the same thing, but as long as, yeah, I'm comfortable with this first step.
Can I ask also that we include to your motion, this is, that the drug treatment facilities would have to meet the same, for the time being, until we have more time to delve into it. The other half is not only where you put it, but what's it got to look like. So that they meet the same bulk requirements as an assisted living or a
That was what I was going to ask about,
Okay.
how they
So
would.
Okay.
lot size, yard.
lot
So-
size,
Yep,
yard,
So
height.
so amended to
Setbacks.
meet the same bulk requirements as associated with assisted living nursing homes
In those zones.
in those zones, yeah.
Does that
Okay.
make sense, Mary?
Is that-
I
yeah,
second your amendment.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Tim, I'm glad you navigated us through this. You've made it very clear for us.
Mary did a much
you know.
better job, and Roberta.
You want a second opinion on that? Okay. All in favor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I apologize.
With agriculture, right? Are there different? And again, I apologize. I'm not trying to draw the conversation out. I mean, I had concerns earlier where I felt that I was going to make a motion to table all of this today. A lot of my concerns have been addressed through this discussion. So the last one now with going into agriculture, right? I guess a residential area in agriculture would fall under R 40,000?
No.
No, it would be agriculture.
Agriculture.
So specifically farms and.
So there'll keep,
There's actually neighborhoods that are in
Yeah.
the ag zone.
Right.
So are there
Those are
different-
agriculturally zoned. Those
But
are
they're-
not residentially zoned.
Right, but they're still a neighborhood, and that's,
Yeah, and that's the situation. We have a very acute situation in the county right now with that, where that you have a residential area,
Right.
but it was agricultural, surrounded by residential. So we're not adding facilities into the ag.
happens
It's-
all over the county, yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand all that, but it is a conditional use. That's
It also
why I
has a
didn't wanna
3-acre
It is.
minimum.
Yeah.
3-acre minimum.
You're right.
How-
And the process there is to either come to us for, there was a mistake in zoning, and that process could take place, but it's, no, there's neighborhoods and homes in agricultural zone properties,
right.
so. Okay,
And that is what's, that's what's making me hesitate at this point.
but that's also why it's conditional use in agricultural locations.
All right, and then just for the sake of clarity, walk me through the conditional use. If a drug treatment facility went into agriculture as a conditional use, am I not getting that right?
Yeah, no, go
Okay,
ahead,
so what is the process for that?
Mary.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I didn't hear the question.
If I wanted to
The
open up a drug
process.
treatment
So-
facility as a
conditional-
conditional
So somebody
use in
comes
ag.
to you,
They don't come to us.
Well,
They
no,
apply
no.
to the BZA for conditional use.
They go to the Office of Administrative Hearings.
Yeah.
And apply for they might talk with the zoning administrator or even planning first, and they'll say, this is what you need to do. You need to apply to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a conditional use hearing. It gets set. The public notice goes out, they hold the hearing, the Board of Zoning Appeals determines, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't. If it's a yes, they have the opportunity to put in conditions, hours of operation, lights, screening, all that kind of stuff, more extensively than even the Planning Commission has by the time, and there's a site plan requirement for most things. And then sometimes it's simplified, sometimes it's more detailed. And then they go through with, if it's a new construction, with building and permits and development review stuff. Does that answer?
Right, so it ultimately would not come back to us, correct?
No development comes to you.
No.
Right. But
Yeah, site plans don't come to you. So the, I guess the concept is the Board of County Commissioners sets the rules, and then they get enforced by, or, implemented by the county, processes and staff, et cetera.
And I understand that, and I can't quite, and this is, for you especially, this is going to be amusing. For me, there's just something about this that doesn't quite, I can't necessarily articulate it. There's something about this that's making me uncomfortable, and I can't quite define it ironically, right?
So maybe we should repeat the motion and try to figure out where that.
I will. I think what's uncomfortable is that you don't believe that us on the dais have our fingers in it to making that final decision, and you don't want to let go of that final decision, where we have a process in place with the BZA to look at the conditional uses and make that decision. But we appoint. So I think that's the comfort level. But what I'm saying is the motion and seconded that is on the table is that the drug treatment facility is authorized conditional usage in environmental, agricultural,
Conservation, agriculture.
I apologize, environmental, conservation, agricultural, and C1, and permitted use in C2 and C3.
So, and thank you, Commissioner Ralston, because that when you said that, that reminded me of the debate that we had about solar development of agricultural land, right? So, I guess, ultimately that did come back to us to make a decision about. And I guess I don't know. If citizens were unhappy about these sorts of things going into agricultural zones, would that look similar to the process we went through with solar, where they would come to us and say, hey, we have an issue, and we decide this is something that we need to re-examine?
It's your ordinance.
Yeah.
You can change your ordinance
Right.
going through the process. It has to go, because it's a zoning ordinance, it goes to, you direct staff to take it to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission does their magic with it, then it comes back to you with their recommendation, and then it's up to you. And that's really what this process, this has gone through that process.
If you don't have the comfort
But in
level.
ag remainders, solar wasn't conditional.
I'd have to.
So, but
You're asking me to
in
switch
this,
I'm saying, the conditional is the extra step here.
right, and
For the public.
that's correct, and we have the responsibility and the authority to modify, if we believe, to accept, and or to reject. So if we accept this moving forward, that's great. If we reject it a month from now, then we bring it back up through the process, and we go through that. But the whole idea is here was to clearly define something that was not clearly defined, to lessen the ambiguity for the community and for us, and then once defined, provided a location that is suitable and appropriate for this type of facility. Those are really the two steps that I'm trying to kind of navigate us through.
Yeah, I agree. This motion to me is a bold and imperfect first step, I think is the way I'd characterize it. And it's probably right where it needs to be.
So you're not going to reject his perfect first step, are you?
Imperfect.
You're full of compliments today.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now, I will bring up one thing, at least for me, real quickly. Obviously, we're discussing what we're discussing here about nursing homes and assisted living and so forth, but I do think, and you make a good point, Commissioner Rothstein, about responsibility. I think we have a responsibility to the five of us, at least from my perspective, that we need, and I understand there's state requirements for residential. And look, everybody's been affected, whether it's Carroll County, it's the state of Maryland, it's nationally, whether it's your family member, your neighbor, everyone's been affected by situations with addiction. I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not taking sides. But I do think we have the responsibility that there needs to be a bigger conversation on the residential side at some point. I don't think we can just do this and leave that alone because, you know, I know for all of us up here, we've had a vast number of emails, phone calls, and personal conversations with people in the community, and I think we owe that to them. Not saying today we do that, but I think we need to, discuss that in the very near future.
Absolutely
I think
agree.
what we owe them is to tell them, we can't change that. That's a state law. We need to talk to our legislators and get them to maybe go change it. But I think we're giving so many people on recovery homes, all this discussion, false hope. We can't change that.
But I
So
think
it
you're
doesn't
talking
matter. We
more
can talk
holistic.
about it
Yes, more
till
holistically.
3 o'clock, and we can't change it.
No, I agree. I think Commissioner Gordon honestly is talking a much more holistic picture, that we
That broader discussion.
have a responsibility to care for our community that is afflicted and affected by drugs. And it is alarming in many senses, and it's frustrating even more. But
And
I
at 2
think that's
o'clock,
where
we're
you
going
were
to see
going.
some of the delegation. I think we ought to tell them.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah, I mean,
I agree. So,
it's-
okay,
it's- okay.
we had
Yeah.
excuse me, we had a motion, we had a second. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5, okay.
But I'm going to vote
I
no.
apologize.
And again, it's
Or
not
one.
because I
Okay.
have, yeah.
It's all good.
If you want me to explain, I can, but it's just, it's,
Yep.
Nope. All good. Okay, let's go on to something much more difficult,
Now I have a
storm
headache,
water
I know.
management maintenance.
You want to take 5 minutes?
Term contracts, let's give it a couple minutes to let people who would like to depart. And if we need to take a break for a couple minutes,
You wanna take
go
a-
for
Can we
it.
take 5?
Yep. Go for
Okay
it.
with that?
Hey, thank you, everybody. Hopefully,
Thank you.
you're not as confused as I am.
11:40.
11:40. Okay.
And I encourage all of you that are worried about recovery houses, get in touch with your delegation. If you want to email me, I'll give you all their email addresses, but that's who we need to badger.
Online, General Assembly's website also.
we need to vote to recess? 10 minutes?
Well, for 5
Three of
minutes.
you here, why don't you do
All
it,
right.
just be sure.
Hey,
Motion to recess for 10 minutes?
For 5 minutes to 11:40.
Motion to recess until 11:40.
Second it.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now,
Contract award, stormwater management maintenance, term contracts.
Hi.
Go for it.
The Bureau of Resource Management, in partnership with the Office of Purchasing, requested qualifications to provide construction and maintenance services on an as-needed basis not to exceed $200,000 per project. This work will include repairs and renovation to the county's stormwater management facilities. This is a component of the county's National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit compliance. The statement of qualifications was divided into two categories based on minor maintenance and major maintenance projects. The intent of the two categories was to provide a clear picture of the potential future maintenance projects and to give the contractors the opportunity to determine what size projects they can accommodate. These contracts will have an initial one-year term with up to 4 additional one-year options for renewal. The renewals will be subject to the availability of funds as well as vendor performance. The Office of Procurement received 12 proposals for Category 1 and 13 for Category 2. After evaluations were complete, the 5 highest-ranked contractors were selected over the 2 categories and are listed below. The Office of Procurement, cooperation with the Department of Planning and Land Management, request your approval to award term contracts to the following for stormwater management maintenance in the amount not to exceed $200,000 per project. The amount is within the adopted budget. For Category 1, we have White Pine Construction. For Category 2, we have White Pine Construction, Magstone, Stamballs Incorporated, and Kibler Construction Company.
Motion to award term contracts for storm water management maintenance to White Pine Construction for Category 1 and White Pine Construction, Magstone, Stamballs Incorporated, and Kibler.
Kibler.
Thank you. Construction Company Incorporated
They're the
for
little
Category
elves.
2.
Yeah.
A little bit.
They're the little elves.
Second.
I got a motion, I
What?
got a second. A lot is going to Finksburg. What's going on there?
Yeah.
Yeah. On the term contracts, you pick all 4.
Yes.
And do they have to give you a budget when you want something done, or is it just a matter of which one you call?
So we still competitively bid the work. So we will call all 4, ask them for price. Like typically we go out to the job site, we've identified what we want done, and we ask them to give us a price by a certain deadline. And then we go with the lowest responsive bidder. So this is just allowing us to shortlist these contractors that we will work with on the stormwater maintenance projects.
Okay, and you have 4 because possibly one of the 4 or 2 of the 4 could say, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, right? They're not obligated to have to do it. They're
Correct.
they're just on your list to
Yep.
get the price.
Yep.
Thank you.
They're on the bench. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I had a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Good discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Let's talk about bid approval and contract award for the Carroll County Housing Study.
Still morning. Good morning.
Okay, Maureen?
Morning. A little bit.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Planning and Land Management, request your approval to award Mosaic Community Planning LLC a contract in the amount of $81,160 to provide professional consulting services in analyzing housing opportunities in the county. This process began as a 2-step process in which the Office of Procurement issued a request for statement of qualifications. 2 statements of qualifications were received. The 2 contractors were then issued a request for proposal, but only 1 contractor, Mosaic, submitted an RFP. The evaluation committee conducted a technical and financial review of the proposal submitted based on the criteria detailed in the proposal. An in-person oral presentation by the contractor was then presented to the evaluation committee members. The evaluation committee deemed Mosaic responsible and meeting the criteria of the proposal and recommended Mosaic for award of this contract for the Carroll County Housing Study. The expenditure is within the approved budget and no additional funds should be necessary. And I'll turn it over to Chris and Celine.
Okay.
Morning.
Good morning. Yes. So essentially, this project is to evaluate housing needs in the county and to determine whether those needs are being met from various aspects. So this is a cooperative project between the Department of Planning and Land Management and Citizen Services. From our perspective, this is a requirement, a federal and state requirement for the comprehensive plan process, which we will be getting into over the next couple of years. And if Celine would like to speak to her aspect of the project.
Sure, and with our work with the Bureau of Housing and Community Development, as well as our work with the COC and the Continuum of Care Homelessness Board and working with homeless services across the county, we really are in support of this housing study to really take a look at the current state of our housing stock, accessibility of housing to every population across the county. We're looking at workforce housing, student housing, as well as housing for older adults, people with disabilities, low income, very low income, those that are already homeless, and how much can they access, what is the availability of that. And then also looking at our housing options from a renter's perspective versus an owner's perspective. What does home ownership look like? Is that available? Is it affordable? And how can we help? And what can we do as the county, and hoping this study will make recommendations to look at these options for us, because right now, all of you are aware of where housing has gone since COVID. There was a lot of funding to support eviction prevention during COVID, but those emergency rental assistance program dollars are no longer available. So that resource that we had to help people keep their units, in their home, are not there any longer. So we need to look at other options. And we are a very different county in a lot of ways, so we really need to be creative. And we're hoping that this vendor can provide us with that detail for us to take a good look at what some creative ideas or solutions could be for our county, and really looking at our permitting zoning laws. Are they impacting our options? And maybe we could look at some of those as well, make changes to better be able to serve everyone across the county and get people into stable housing.
Okay. Where's Mosaic located?
They're from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Motion to award a contract to Mosaic Community Planning LLC in the amount of in the amount of $81,160 to provide a housing study for Carroll County.
Second.
I got a motion, got a second. Any discussion on this?
I can appreciate the intent of this, but I don't know what you're really going to find out from this study that we don't already know about what's going on in the county in terms of housing. And for that amount of money, I'd rather give it to some of the nonprofits because they're already engaged in some of these activities.
Does the independent study like this, the expectation is to provide further insight? One, is it a requirement to do an independent study? And then two is, will an independent study like this, because we've done them in the past, provide, appropriate insight to this process? Can you talk to either one of those?
Sure. So there is a federal and state requirement that of a housing component for our comprehensive plan. And in order to facilitate the development of that component, we need the metrics. We need to understand what is the current state of housing here in Carroll County. So this study is really to do the analysis, pull together the numbers, engage the public. There's a lot of stakeholder involvement, and this is going to be comprehensive, related to all of the municipalities. This is not just the county. So all the municipalities in the county working cooperatively to determine what those metrics are, find out from stakeholders what the issues are, and so on. And that will lead to the discussion related to the housing element of the comprehensive plan. So it's not required that we do a third party, to my knowledge, or have a third party do this, but it's a matter of resources, right? pulling all that analytical data together. And Mosaic is an expert in this field. They have done that across the nation with various other communities similar to ourselves. And so they have the wherewithal, they have the technology and so on, the experience engaging the community to get that information, pull it all together into a report that will then help the decision-making, informed decision-making.
Okay. I appreciate the question. That's, you know, we should question, you know, things like this, so.
And I
yeah, please.
apologize in case you already said it and I missed it. How long will this study take?
I don't recall.
It's slated to take about a year from start to finish, because there will be on-site meetings with customer and stakeholder engagement with Mosaic as well.
Okay.
Okay.
And just to also state, we have not had a housing study completed since 2005. And that housing study that was completed in 2005 did not have the recommendations. It was just a study with the available data. So this study does include, and we are very specific in the scope, that they will provide us with recommendations that could be implemented that go the gamut, right? And the density piece, not favorable in many cases. So looking at other creative options that could potentially work in Carroll.
Okay, I appreciate that. Any other discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
No.
Okay. Let's talk about exercising the option to purchase agricultural land preservation using the lump sum payment option on the Joseph and Nona Schwartzbeck property. Okay.
Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're glad to say we made it here by the morning time. I didn't think we were gonna there for a while. We're here before you today for a final approval for a program for a farm in our county program owned by Joseph and Nona Schwartzbeck at 4330 Bark Hill Road, Union Bridge. 344.35 acres on this property. We'll be retiring 32 lot rights, and the fair market value of the land only was $3,020,992. Today, the cost will be $2,114,694.84, which equals $6,141 per acre, which is 70% of the fair market value. This is the farm as it sits north and south of Middleburg Road. And here's the farm as it sits with other preserve farms in the area. Wow. So it fits very well into our largest contiguous area of over 30,000 acres in northwest Carroll County. It's a picture of the farm with a little round top far in the background. So this is a large dairy farm in Union Bridge, and they have 3 generations working on this farm.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Now, the part on Middleburg Road that's not part of this, is that just their house and where they live, or is that somebody else's property?
That weird little triangle? That weird little triangle right on the road?
Oh, the blue?
The blue.
Oh, the blue.
That's a
Middleburg
neighbor.
Road.
That's a neighbor's property.
That's neighbor?
Yes, sir. That's already in a county easement.
Yes, okay.
So we'll hopefully flood that whole area with blue, and we won't notice
Yeah.
that as well.
Wow.
So once again, we're here for final approval for the Joseph and Nona Schwartzbeck property located at 4330 Bark Hill Road, Union Bridge, 344.35 acres. We are retiring 32 lot rights. Fair market value of the land only was $3,020,992.64, and we'll be exercising this at a cost of $2,114,694.84.
Out of that 340 5 acres. How much of it looks like that?
How much of it looks like that? A great deal of it.
I mean, it's beautiful.
This is, well, we're standing probably somewhere right in this area
Okay.
when that picture was taken.
Looking towards Middleburg Road.
Yeah.
Looking towards Middleburg Road, and then the other picture was taken up here along this cornfield.
Sometimes you provide us 2 or 3 views, especially when it's properties like this that are just
It's a beautiful place.
pretty majestic. Yeah. So.
You can
okay.
see from the one map that it's mostly tillable. There's hardly
Yeah,
any forest
exactly.
on it, and
I mean, wow.
yeah, from there.
Okay. Okay.
Motion to, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
What's this get us to acreage? We're bumping at 80?
Well, currently, we're at 78,995 acres.
So this gets us, this will
We'll
get us
be-
over the 79,
Yes.
but not
Yes,
quite.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
This is one of the, a few of the 3,600 acres that we've been working on.
Yep. Okay.
Motion to exercise option to purchase an easement on the Joseph and Nona Schwartzbeck property in the amount of let me just do the whole number, $2,114,694.84.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about bid approval and contract award for congregate meals. There's a request for purchase. Procurement, purchase. Who's coming? Okay, Maureen. Morning, Rich.
Morning again, Commissioners.
Good morning, good morning.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Aging and Disabilities, requested proposals from qualified contractors to provide the materials, equipment, services, and manpower to provide lunch meals for older adults at 5 congregate sites located in the Carroll County Senior Centers. The meals must meet federal requirements to meet the nutritional needs of older adults as mandated by the Maryland Department of Aging and must be prepared and delivered in accordance with the Code of the Maryland Regulations. The Bureau of Aging and Disabilities requires 1 temperature-controlled hot meal per day with an alternate choice of 4 box cold meals 5 days per week. 1 proposal was received for the above project. An evaluation committee was formed to conduct technical and financial review of the proposal submitted. The committee evaluated this proposal based on criteria detailed in the request for proposal. The proposal submitted was from Watson Hall Partners, LLC, doing business as Business Food Solutions located in Baltimore, which is our current vendor. Funds were approved in the FY24 budget, and no additional money should be required. And as you can see, the pricing below. And I'm going to turn it over to Rich and Celine to address the program.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So the Title 3C food program is what we run out of the senior centers. Last year, we had over 28,000 meals served just at the senior centers through that program, it's a good way for people to come in and have an opportunity to sit down and talk with other folks. During the pandemic, we talked quite a bit about social isolation and trying to do our best to eliminate that or at least decrease it. One of the best ways that senior centers can do that is through the Title 3C program. So people come in and they have a meal. We simply ask for a donation. We don't charge them if they're 60 and over, at age 60 and over. It gives them an opportunity to just sit down and have a good meal. And for some people, I hate to say it, but for some people that may be the best meal they get for the day. So,
how consistent are your numbers? Is it hard to plan how many are going to be in each center, or is it pretty consistent?
For a while there, it was going up and down as we reopened the centers, but they've kind of settled into a pattern now. The Westminster Senior Center is the one that serves the most meals on a daily basis, but the South Carroll Senior Center serves quite a few meals as well, and then the other three are, pretty much the same amount with each of them, but the two top ones are Westminster and Eldersburg, South Carroll.
If I was a wise guy, by you saying it's probably the best meal you have all day, it's like you know my wife, but I would never say that, so.
You may not have a meal tonight.
She's traveling to Tennessee, so I'm on my own anyway.
I do want to also say on that, with your ask about how do we predict it, we do require that folks pre-register for their meals in advance. That way we don't have food that's waste.
But you have a 5% in case there are just walk-ins, or no?
No, we will order one for one,
Okay.
but we will have cancellations, and then we will find people who need
Okay.
food.
So a few times I've been over to Mount Airy Senior Center for lunch. It looked like they were cooking lunch, but is this this provides the raw food itself for those meals, or is this something,
No, the food actually arrives already prepared, and what we do in the kitchens is we hold them at temp. So what you're seeing is the food is actually on steam tables, and they're holding them at temperature.
So they're moving it into the steam tables or the containers to put it in for the steam table?
Motion to award the contract for congregate meals to Watson Hall Partners LLC, DBA Business Food Solutions.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any further discussion on this? Seen here, none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now let's talk about home-delivered meals.
The Office of Procurement requested proposals from qualified contractors to provide the materials, equipment, services, and manpower to provide home-delivered meals for older adults in Carroll County. The meals must meet federal requirements to meet the nutritional needs of older adults as mandated by the Maryland Department of Aging, and must be prepared and delivered in accordance with the Code of Maryland regulations. The Senior Nutrition Program at the Carroll County Bureau of Aging and Disabilities provides home-delivered meals for adults who are 60 and over, homebound, or unable to cook or shop, and have no one to do it for them. Home-delivered frozen meals shall be delivered to clients at least 3 days per week. One proposal was received for the above project. The evaluation committee was formed to conduct technical and financial review of the proposal submitted. The committee evaluated this proposal based on criteria detailed in the request for proposal. The proposal submitted was from Meals on Wheels of Central Maryland, who is our current provider, at a cost of $10.28 per meal, 28 cents per meal. This cost is within the FY24 budget, and no additional funds should be required. And again, I'll let Rich and Celine talk about the project.
Thank you. So the Meals on Wheels, our home-delivered meals program, is a program that is very largely dependent on volunteers. And the way it works is the food is brought to what's the name of that church?
St. Ben's.
Thank you.
On
St.
Crider's
Ben's.
Church Road.
Yep. And drivers are there to receive the meals, and then they take them to various people around Carroll County. The folks who need the meals will usually contact Meals on Wheels, or we'll put them in contact with Meals on Wheels, who will do a quick assessment to see if a person qualifies or for what type of funding a person qualifies for. So people will receive home-delivered meals, but it may not be funded through the 3C program. But the folks who are approved for 3C funding, usually the turnaround is very quick, within 2 or 3 days, sometimes quicker than that, honestly. And the meals are received, they're frozen. It's 2 meals per day. They're getting them 3 days a week, so it's 6 meals per week. They certainly can scale back if they choose to. And it's a successful program. It's been a very successful program for us in Carroll County over the last, well, since I've been in this position for 4 years. Get very few complaints, mostly compliments, and works well. These folks who are receiving the meals are typically people who cannot leave their homes or do not have the ability anymore to prepare their own food or shop for their own food. So this is an opportunity for them to have prepared meals on a daily basis.
So, defining success, is that satisfaction from the customer?
Yes.
That's how you're defining success?
Yes.
Okay. 60 and over, I understand. Is there a way for you to have you figured out, is this, 60 and over like my age or somebody like really antique, like Commissioner Kyler? I mean, we're talking like 80, 90, or, what? I mean, how do we know the ages? Is there a way or no?
Well, when somebody applies, that would be part of the process that
They
they
throw
would give
their
us
age
that
in there?
demographic
Okay.
information. Yep.
Do you
And
maintain those demographics?
what's that?
Do you maintain those demographics?
We do.
Okay,
We do.
okay.
Do you have to coordinate volunteers, or does Meals on Wheels do that?
Meals on Wheels has a site coordinator that does that for us. The Senior Inclusion Program has a group that actually delivers meals 1 day a week. So,
Okay.
Motion to award the contract for home-delivered meals to Meals on Wheels of Central Maryland.
Second.
I got a motion, got a second. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you.
job, as always. Okay, let's talk about a replacement of a non-supported, uninterruptible power supply, otherwise known as an UPS.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Go for it.
All right. The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Public Safety, requests your approval to replace the uninterruptible power supply at the Public Safety Communications Tower site in Mount Airy, Maryland, by Hankey's Radio Incorporated in the amount of $64,480. This cost includes removal of the old system, installation of the new UPS unit, and a new bypass switch, all labor and materials. Hankey's Radio Incorporated is a term contractor with Carroll County. And this amount is approved within the fiscal year 24 budget, and no additional funds should be required.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you can see in the background, communications towers and the equipment that are associated with them are extraordinarily important. They are a vital segment of the county's communications infrastructure, and they do require reliable and consistent electrical power supply, and UPS units, uninterruptible power supply units, are the means that we use to make sure that all of that equipment continues to have the level of electrical supply that it needs to continue to function. They're designed to bridge the gap between a loss of commercial power until the generator that's also associated with the site can kick in and provide power. Excuse me. So they do need maintenance and periodic upgrades. That has happened with this unit, but it is 23 years old. It can't be repaired anymore. It definitely needs replacement. It is still operating, but we're trying to take a proactive approach here because we are probably on borrowed time with this particular unit.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Motion to approve the installation of a new UPS system at the Public Safety Communications Tower site in Mount Airy, Maryland by Hankey's Radio Incorporated in the amount of $64,480.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioners?
Let's talk about a contract renewal for the Emergency Notification System, ENS.
All right. Go ahead, Valerie. Do you want to introduce him?
Yeah, I was going to say, introduce Jacob Hill, the Assistant Emergency Manager today. And I neglected, I think Jack already left, but Jack was here in the background. I'm sure you saw him from Emergency Communications as the Emergency Communications Manager for the previous one.
All right. The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Public Safety, Emergency Management, requests your approval to award the renewal of the Carroll Alert Emergency Notification System to Everbridge in the amount of $63,000 $659.60. This purchase will be made utilizing a GSA contract. This amount is approved within the fiscal year 24 budget, and no additional funds should be required.
For this one, Commissioners, you're probably familiar with the Carroll Alert System. It is our mass notification system. We've been using it since 2015 for both emergency mass notifications to the public, as well as non-emergency type notifications. This year's purchase is both renewal of the MN Pro module and also an additional resident connection life safety module that's intended to enhance the effective reach of how we can reach people when we really need to get notifications out. We do use the system for public-facing notifications, so things that are traditionally thought of as reverse 911. This is technically not a reverse 911 system, but it works in the same manner. And also we use this system for internal communications. So the Department of Public Works, Department of Public Safety, Fire and EMS use it for some internal communications. As more and more people are going to mobile phones, it's becoming more and more difficult for us to effectively reach those mobile phones using traditional methods. So this resident connection module allows us to have the largest coverage of contacts possible for sending messages about life-threatening situations. So it provides us as an official public alerting agency, as a state or local government, with access to the Carroll County specific portion of the National Life Safety Database, and that includes traditional landline and voice over internet phone numbers as well as mobile phone numbers. The resident module cost includes all of the geocoding of all of that data, and then regular monthly updates in the background. So we don't have to do the geocoding of that data. We don't have to do any of the monthly updates. It just happens invisibly to us. All of the data is protected, and all of the usage complies with all of the appropriate FCC guidelines. Excuse me. And the only way that we are able to use the wireless numbers are for things that are imminent threats to life. So evacuation, shelter in place, critical missing or endangered people, that type of thing.
Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the annual renewal of the Emergency Notification System ENS to Everbridge in the amount of $63,659.60.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, let's talk a little IT, project management, software subscription renewal.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Technology Services and Public Works, is requesting your approval to renew the annual subscription for project management software to EC America in the amount of $45,319.09. This purchase will be made utilizing a GSA master contract. This amount was approved in the fiscal year 24 budget, and no additional funds should be required.
Commissioners, this is a package which Building Construction and Public Works uses intricately in everything that they do as far as project management. It allows them to keep everything in one place. It does a tremendous amount of calculations and analysis for them, and it really is an integral part of their operation.
Why just annually? Why not multi-year?
No, there's no discount. As I said, Commissioner, we check that every time we go out for a bid to see if there's any discount for future, and there is nothing for this one.
Motion to approve the renewal of the annual subscription to EC America for project management software in the amount of $45,319.09.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's talk about a contract renewal of the Judicial Dialogue software maintenance and support renewal. 2 renewals. Go ahead.
I'm just here temporarily.
You are.
I just want to introduce our new buyer, Michelle Lefeld. She's been here a little over 2 weeks, and we're already noticing a difference. It's a big help having another buyer on board, so thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it over to Michelle.
And you realize leg irons are part of the uniform, so you stay
That
where you
wasn't
are.
on the job
I
description.
was just saying.
Very fine print.
Well, good afternoon and welcome.
Marie.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. The Office of Procurement and Cooperation with the Department of Technology Service requests your approval to award the renewal of the Judicial Dialogue Software maintenance and support to Judicial Dialogue Systems in the amount of $29,457.97. This amount is approved in the fiscal '24 budget, and no additional funds should be required.
And again, Commissioners, this is a software package that's extremely instrumental to the daily operations of the District Court, Circuit Court, Juvenile Courts, and State's Attorney's Office. I have Ms. Kelly Cox in the room if you had any specific questions for her. She is expert in the use of the software and all facets of it. So, and again, there is no discount for multi-year.
Motion to approve the renewal of the Judicial Dialogue Software maintenance and support to Judicial Dialogue Systems in the amount not to exceed $29,457.97.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any further discussion on this one? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Thank you,
very much, and
Commissioners.
you're
Thank you.
welcome. Okay, let's talk about the Board of Elections office and warehouse space.
Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon to you both.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Commissioners. Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm here with Aaron, the new director?
Yes.
Officially new director. Congratulations for the Carroll
Congratulations.
County Board of
Congrats.
Elections. And we'll be discussing the new space for the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections has operated out of a shared space at Robert Moten Center for the last 15 years. Also in that space is our Department of Rec and Parks and former students and friends of Robert Moten High School. During the FY24 budget cycle, we allocated money for a new space. Funding included money for the monthly lease and the space fit out. Given the nature of election operations and the specific needs, there were limited options out there on the market. Some of the factors we considered were offices for full and part-time staff, around 25,000 square foot of warehouse, and room for early voting and election judge training. Fortunately, we found a space that fit all these needs. Airport Square Business Park, conveniently located off Route 27 and Airport Drive, had several suites available that fit our needs. Over the last several months, we've completed walkthroughs, conceptual designs, and terms of the lease. After reviewing with county attorney, outside counsel, and our Office of Risk, we're requesting your approval to sign a lease for this space. At this time, I'll hand it over to Erin if she had anything else to add, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Nice to meet you finally in person. So good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for working so hard with this. I know you worked with our past director, Catherine Berry, as well. So we're just very excited. Hopefully we can get moving on this.
Brian, did you say 27? It's 97.
97.
Okay.
We're at 97.
I thought you said 20-something, like, no.
I could have.
Yeah, welcome, and congratulations
Thank you.
again.
Thank you very much.
Any conversation on this one?
Yeah, well, not quite. Welcome.
Thank you.
And you're permanent, the minutes say acting, but how long have you been in Carroll County elections? Like, you've been there 3 years, maybe?
I started in September of 2020, so yes, at least 3 years.
So you're not new to us, and you still took it.
I guess. Well, I'm not new to elections, and I still took it.
Oh, I know you've had a long history with
Yes.
elections.
Yes, and I enjoyed the whole conversation this morning. I had to delay a meeting, but it was very interesting, good interaction, so I guess I stuck around.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us.
Absolutely.
I just want to make one comment if I could. I just want to commend you. I know obviously you've been there for 3 years, but I want to commend you and your staff and your predecessor for a lot of challenges with elections in general. And I know spatial allocations but definitely been a challenge. And I know a number of us up here have toured the current building. And I just appreciate all the hard work and how you were able to pull everything off with those challenges.
Thank you.
And that reminds me, that's a good point, because, yeah, you guys did suffer where you were. But moving, and I know you're going to hopefully get some warehouse space first, and there has to be fit out. What does that involve with the state? Do you need permission to move stuff? How do you have to notify them where it is? It's not just you get a U-Haul and move it.
No, we are not allowed to do that because the voting equipment is leased through the state. So the state, I'd have to work with the state to get a transportation company to actually move. It's same thing when we deliver equipment for early voting or on election day. Also, and as a matter of fact, as soon as this lease is signed, I'm going to contact the state because we have to get certain, I'm not an IT person, cabling for our MD voters statewide voter registration system. So there's certain kind of connections that have to be made as well. A lot of interaction with the state.
Yeah,
yes.
thanks.
I'd want to say congratulations, and you can give Catherine a call after this and say, I've only been the director for one day, and look what I did.
Yeah, you already fixed all the problems.
Yeah, you already fixed all the problems. I think it'll be a fascinating process for you in this move. I think when it's probably over, you and including the staff, you'll know everything is and where it should be. So again, congratulations, and I think Commissioner Kyler alluded to this. It's important for people to know that are watching. The Board of Elections in Carroll County is a state entity.
Correct.
But the Carroll County Commissioners get to pay for most of it. So that's just important for people to note. So.
It's not just like that in Carroll County, it's across the state.
And it's across the state, yes.
It is across the state.
Yes. So again, thank you.
Absolutely.
And thanks to Public Works for all this. It's been a lot of work.
And
We've been on you
Department of
guys.
Technology Services was also involved. They're helping Aaron out. We have tours with Homeland Security. They came in and kind of talked to. I'm not an IT professional either, but it's been a team effort to make this happen.
Don't give them credit. It's almost like giving Mr. Burke credit. Don't go there. No, I'm kidding.
Mr. Burke's had a rough day. We gotta.
And I don't want to jinx you. Put me on schedule for a tour once you've moved. My last tour, Katie had done something to her leg, and so she gave me a tour in a desk chair.
Oh, yes. She probably wheeled around a bit. Absolutely. You'll all be invited once we get
Awesome.
settled.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Motion to approve the Department of Public Works to move forward and execute the lease for space for the Board of Elections.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Absolutely.
Have a good day.
You too.
Let's talk about a grant and approval to accept the Economic Development Administration Award to Office of Tourism, Carroll County Farm Museum, for a mobile stage and authorize the use of county funds. Ladies.
Good afternoon. Good
I was
afternoon.
going to say good morning. You're right, it is afternoon. Commissioners, we're here to ask you to accept an award to the Department of Tourism and the Carroll County Farm Museum for a mobile stage, and then to authorize the use of some county funding for the project. This was applied for a couple of years ago. Oh, I thought Denise was here. I'm sorry.
I'm just waving Miss Jane.
Filling
That's all.
in. I thought if she's here, she can come on up. This was applied for a couple of years ago. It required a quote, and then 2 years later, we went out to bid, and the bid came in a little bit higher than we had anticipated, so that's the need for the county funding. And I'll let Bonnie speak to what we're doing with the
Okay.
stage and what the plans are.
Yeah, the stage, and we got this EDA grant, and we got a grant for $107,000 and some change. And then when we put it out to bid, the bid came back for like $500 and $160, I think is the difference that we need to come up with in order to go ahead and order the stage. It's going to be a mobile stage. It can be put in different positions, and, we were very surprised to get the grant from the state, so we're very happy about that. And I think it'll be well utilized at the Farm Museum.
Where'd the grant come from specifically?
The Economic Development Association, it's a federal grant.
Came through the Department of Commerce
From
at the
Commerce,
stage.
yeah.
So why are you surprised?
I don't know, we just didn't think we would get it, because, all the 23 counties were all out there trying to get this money, and we
Yeah,
were
but
just
we're the
surprised.
best there is, and
No.
I would not be surprised with you and the team, so.
We're delighted.
that's Great, you should be.
Be similar to the stage that we've been renting for the last few events.
Yes.
That'll be nice.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay.
Do we need to ask some questions so the people in the back have to say something?
Well, you can do that.
I mean, if they want to, I mean, it's up to them, you know. No, fantastic.
Motion to accept the EDA award and authorize the use of $5,160 in county funds to support the project.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Commissioners.
You're one for one.
Thank you.
Let's talk about,
You'll need to stay here.
actually, we're done.
We've got what we have to approve the purchase.
Now we're
You
letting
gotta
them
buy it.
Now we gotta buy it.
You're going down.
That's what I thought. Okay. So approve the purchase. Thank you.
That just accepted the.
Yeah, accepted the grant. Yeah, I was like, wait a second. Now let's
We're gonna
approve the
buy it.
purchase.
Yeah, now we need to buy
Stage.
it, yeah.
Go ahead.
The Office of Procurement and Cooperation with the Department of Economic Development request your approval to award the purchase of a mobile stage for the Carroll County Farm Museum to Stage Line in the amount of $112,810. The Office of Procurement received 2 bids, with Stage Line being the lowest bidder that met the specifications listed in the request for bid. The mobile stage will be used for various events at the Carroll County Farm Museum to increase attendance levels by offering entertainment opportunities to the local community while potentially drawing in others from surrounding counties. The Farm Museum's maintenance staff will be responsible for the operation of the stage, which functions by a hydraulic system. The cost of the mobile stage includes on-site training by Stage Line staff. The majority of this purchase is being made by a state tourism grant through the Department of Commerce. The remaining amount is within the adopted budget. We have Brian Hall here as well from the Carroll County Maintenance staff at the Farm Museum, that if you have any questions regarding the operation of it, 'cause they'll be the ones that'll be handling that, if you'd like to ask any questions.
Well,
No, unless, Brian, you have something to say.
yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to check this thing out when it comes in. Motion to award the contract for the purchase of an SL-75 mobile stage to Stage Line in the amount of $112,810.
Second.
I have a motion second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you
ladies.
very much.
Chris, we have anybody on the phone?
We do not.
Okay. Any public comment? You here for public comment?
I'm here strictly to observe.
Okay. What I need then is for us to take a look at the October 26th minutes for closed land acquisition and legal advice. And then I'm going to need a motion and a second and approval on those.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I got a motion and a second to approve the October 26th closed minutes for land acquisition and legal advice. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
As
Wanda, you can
she's
come on up.
watching, can I make a brief comment?
You can make a,
We're an admin, right?
we are an
Yes.
open admin.
I just want to thank you guys. This zoning stuff can be complicated, and to me, it's so obvious that everybody here, we differ, but everybody here really wants to do the right thing for the taxpayers of Carroll County, and I just think it was a great discussion.
Yes.
Thanks to staff, now we get to eat lunch, so, you know.
I'm still not giving you a hug.
Kenny, I'll give you a hug.
No, yeah.
I'll give you a hug. So, and I will echo Commissioner Kyler's thoughts. I mean, I am so blessed to be able to work with all of you and to have the discussions that we do. And that, even when we happen to, diverge in opinions on some things, it's done in a very respectful, professional way. And I really am blessed to be able to call all of you friends, so.
Okay.
And make note of how nice we are while you're observing.
Yeah.
So, Tim, you have anything to add to this? I mean, there's a little kumbaya going on. You want?
Yeah, you want to jump in?
I'm going to need a few pages to do the motion.
I'm just saying.
Kind of went all over here, there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Tim, I like you too.
Roberta, anything to add?
Roberta,
Okay.
I like you. Wanda, I like you. How's that?
You want a second opinion? No, I'm kidding. Not to Wanda, but no. Okay. Monday, November 6th. There's a Veterans Day, discussion over at Century High School that I will be participating in the morning. On Tuesday, 6:30 p.m., Rec and Parks Volunteer and Hall of Fame Awards that Commissioner Kyler, Vigliotti, and I will be attending over at Charles Carroll Community Center. On Wednesday, November 8th, there's a opioid prevention coalition meeting. Commissioner Kyler will be participating over at the Health Department. And then
Kind of. I'm doing the next thing and probably only
Okay.
getting to the health department for
Got
the
it.
second half.
Okay. And there's a special
Oh, and
OPTS.
can I make one more comment?
You can make as many
I know we got
comments as
plenty
you
of
want.
time. It's great to see that Rec and Parks is doing that at Charles Carroll.
Yes.
I think that's
Oh,
nice.
I
And they
think so,
get,
too.
they normally get a pretty good crowd for that, so.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be good.
It'll be interesting how they set it up, in the gym.
I won't talk anymore.
You sure? Special OPTS Prevention Program, Commissioner Kyler will be participating over at Manval. Farm Museum Board Meeting, Commissioner Vigliotti will be participating at 9:30 that morning. And then 5 p.m., Board of Education Board Meeting.
Right, and I will not be able to.
We don't
get
have
that
any
this year.
takers right now. One thing, please, I will be traveling to Annapolis on Wednesday and participating in the MACO board meeting on Thursday. So I will not be here Wednesday afternoon through Thursday. I don't know what the agenda is on Thursday, but I will not be here on Thursday, okay?
So Commissioner Kyler is going to be running the show.
You okay with that?
Hey, go for it. Thursday, November 9th, we go into open at 09, and got a proclamation. And then we go into a budget quarterly update from Mr. Zaleski, approval of bylaw revisions for the Carroll County LMB, or Local Management Board, from Citizen Services. We're going to talk about transferring funds into the self-help project from Park and Recs. And then we're going to spend that money, or approve to purchase, over a Leicester Park Playground surfacing replacement from Rec and Parks. And then approve purchase of computers and emergency operations, for the Emergency Operations Center from Ms. Hawkins, Emergency Management, or Public Safety, excuse me. Approve to purchase upgrade of New Windsor and COB Backup Dispatch Center, again, from Emergency Management. Grant, acceptance of awards for Emergency Management Performance Grant, Urban Area Security Initiative, and State Homeland Security Grant Program, all, again, from Public Safety. Contract award 2023 fall tree planting over Land Resource Management. Request for public hearing, bulk requirements in the commercial zones. Text amendments to Chapter 158 of the zoning code. I'll be interested to see what you all come up with on that one. Option to purchase the Thomas Walsh property through the Critical Farms program. Approval to purchase fire alarm upgrade, North Carroll Library, from DPW. Approval to purchase storm drain replacement over Wolf Hill Drive. Contract award stream stabilization improvements in the vicinity of Stone Manor wastewater pumping station. And then contract award construction inspection services for the stream stabilization improvements, again, over at Stone Manor wastewater pumping station. One thing that's not on here, Roberta, is the radios we talked about, the
Right.
court system.
They
So-
haven't filed their briefing paper.
Oh, okay, okay. And then a 3 p.m. instructional technology showcase.
Wow, it got quiet.
Sure did. Commissioner Guerin will be attending. On Friday, the county offices will be closed for Veterans Day. There's Bridging Life. We honor our vets breakfast that I'll be attending. If anybody, you're good.
I'll be at that too,
You're
Wanda, if you could
attending
have
that.
me. Yep.
That's a good breakfast.
And Wanda, if you, I'm sorry, when you're done writing it. So at 7:30 a.m., I'll be at the Tawnytown Business Breakfast to talk about veteran services, and I think Gina Valentine will be as well.
Correct.
Thank you, Wanda.
There's a flag retirement ceremony over at the Knights of Columbus. I was asked to attend that at 12:30. And again, there's other activities in the schools that some of us or some may be attending, just be aware. Saturday, November 11th, Veterans Day. The former students of Friends of Robert Moton is having a meeting. Commissioner Kyler's participating in that. Commissioner Vigliotti is attending the Hessen Snyder Post 120 Veterans Day program. At 11, also at 11, the Veterans Day observance over at the Monocacy Valley Memorial VFW post. I will be attending that up in Tawnytown. At 2 p.m. in Eagle Scout Court of Honor. Yeah, okay. On Saturday, November 11th, and then I'll be, participating in the Sykesville Veterans Day event that afternoon at 4 p.m. at their townhouse. I'll be participating. Commissioner Guerin has the podcast on Sunday.
And turn your clocks.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So, Ms. Hill, I will be
Is there?
at the American Legion Post 191 in Mount Airy on November 12th at 5 p.m. for
Maybe
their
it's this week. It might be this week.
Veterans Day ceremony. So that's the Sunday, November 12th. And the an item 2, just a request that are we going to see the bylaws before we get in here Thursday? If possible, I wouldn't mind taking a look at those prior.
You'll get them on Friday as with.
Okay, so they'll be in that package. Okay,
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Okay, the following week, we have Monday, 3 p.m., the Transit Advisory Council meeting. Commissioner Kyler's attending down room 105. On Tuesday, November 14th, the Community College Board of Trustees breakfast. Commissioner Kyler, Vigliotti, and I are attending. Okay. Planning and Zoning Commission, Commissioner Gordon is participating in that morning. And then there's an Ag Board meeting that evening that I'll be attending. Wednesday, November 15th, is a Diabetes Awareness Month proclamation presentation at 12 p.m. over at the Carroll Hospital Center lobby. And Commissioner Vigliotti is participating in that. And then at 5 p.m., Carroll Community College Board of Trustees meeting, Commissioner Kyler. 7 p.m. that evening is the ESAC, the Emergency Services Advisory Council. Commissioner Guerin will be participating in that on Thursday, November 16th. Transfer of 2 county-owned parcels to the ARC of Carroll County. It's a request for public hearing for transfer of 2 county-owned, parcels to the ARC Carroll County. Change order,
Your favorite
change
thing.
order over at Maryland 851, in other words, Main Street in Sykesville, water and sewer main improvements. It's like every other week we have a change order, so.
We got to change that.
This is the one that Andy referred to this one last week.
Okay.
So, yeah,
That is the one, okay.
it's related.
And then we have closed admin after that just closed admin. Saturday, November 18th, Stitching History, Quilting in Carroll County exhibit opening, Carroll County Farm Museum, Westminster.
Yeah, put me. I think I can make that.
Wanda, you can add me as well for that.
So the two of them will be stitching or Afghaning or something.
I don't know what we'll be doing.
Saturday, 6
Pictures. I want pictures of that.
Maybe I could stitch myself a tie.
6 p.m. That evening is the Shock Trauma, the Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center celebration that I'll be attending. And then I have the podcast on Sunday. How'd I do, Wanda? Okay. Anything else?
If the 16th doesn't look too crowded, I wouldn't mind at some point, maybe, well, it wouldn't have to be on the 16th, but I think we discussed hearing from forestry a couple months ago in the county, and the forestry, whoever's managing the forestry program in the county, and I wouldn't mind trying to see that, get them before us at some point, give us a briefing.
Like an informational update kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was being batted around a little bit. But
The one thing I was thinking about doing was asking to move the bulk requirements concern to the 16th from the 9th. What's that?
We could definitely do that.
Wherever that is.
It was on the first week.
Yeah.
The item 9, if we can move that to the 16th. This way we can all be a part of it. I'd like to be a part of that.
So, by forestry, do you mean our staff to talk about the
I just know there was I'll circle back.
remember it, I'm
I'll circle
sorry.
back with you on that. There was a question about forestable land and we can talk.
timber question?
Yeah, the timber
Oh.
question.
Yeah, that we're still.
Yeah, we're still working
on
through that,
We'll
yeah.
come to you
Alright.
in the spring.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. No. Always
And
ask.
what's the request to move
I'm
item
asking
9?
for item
The bulk?
9 to move to the 16th.
No objections.
Yeah, just
I have no
the bulk
objection to do that,
requirement
yeah.
zoning thing.
So. Okay. Any other comments, thoughts, ideas? What I need is a motion to go into closed for land management,
Land acquisition.
land acquisition only. I need a motion to go into closed for land acquisition.
So moved.
Second.
And then a motion to adjourn after that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.